Yo. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me in the chat? Let me hear the chat. Let me see the chat real quick. Cause low key, high key. This is definitely one of my first time hosting it by myself. So if I got everything situated, let me know. I'm gonna throw the link in there later on, but give me a second. Yo, we are here. The first of all, the title is crazy. The title is just ridiculously crazy. However, we are here because a very, very interesting development as I have taken the time out to really look over a couple of things. I came to some new developments about some players that played in a certain time period and time frame. Did my research and had to really, really get deep into a couple of things. So, first and foremost, where did this come from? Because you see the topic, the 60s is pure trash. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I was huge on 60 basketball, at least trying to sustain it a little bit. However, I continue to look at it, continue to understand what's going on. I don't know how to get rid of the king of the court, what you call it, Mars. So you're gonna have to hop off. I don't know how to change the background. I don't know how you change the background. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't want to mess them up. I don't know. Mars is disgusting because Mars knows how to do it. And then he's like, yo. Oh, Gabe, do it for me. So how did I come to this conclusion? How did I dig deeper into the 60s basketball? How did I hold on? There you go. There we go. Get him out of here. How did I get here? So I think a lot of people think that the argument that I'm about to make is simply
shut up.
Player. Wow. People think now I'm going to just sit here and say that the game of basketball has evolved, has gotten better. That's the reason why it's trash back in the day. However, that's not the case at all. Even though, yes, that is true, I do look things through a relative lens, right? So relatively speaking, how good a player is from a year-to-year basis on a decade basis is how I'm gauging this. But with that being said, even for the decade of the 60s, and this also carries over to the 70s, the talent pool is shallow. It's nowhere near where it's supposed to be because there's certain rules set in place that prevented players from coming into the league, and also other leagues, et cetera, that gave certain players more advantageous reasonings behind if I want to play for the ABA or even play for the Globetrotters. This came up because I was sitting back and I was watching that Dr. J interview, and I was also watching the Rick Barry interview. And I knew that both of them were going to have terrible takes, but I didn't know how terrible they were going to be. Dr. J, all respect to him, but my goodness, the things that he was saying was just so far off from what the reality is, and similar things with Rick Barry. So then I just took the time out to actually fact check what I was believing, and then I did a little bit more digging and came to the conclusion that, yeah, the 60s and 70s is just not it. So why do I say that? First and foremost, I like I've said this before, 70s basketball is cut in half. The league is watered down because you have an ABA, you have the Globetrotters. We're talking about an era of basketball where it just doesn't make any sense for a lot of people to play in the NBA if they're not able to financially compensate you. And more importantly, though, just in a general sense, if there's probably more talent potentially in another league. So the NBA is not even the best league potentially in the 70s. So that's A. And B, going to the 60s, why do I say that? So for those who don't know, there was a rule set in place that prevented people from getting into the league because you had to be 4 years removed from high school. Many people spent their time playing in college, but unfortunately, many players didn't have the money to go to college. Many of them did not have the ability to fund themselves to college. So even when they got to the NBA, they had no prerequisite skills, the ability to play basketball at a high level, very little practice, very little stability. And if you didn't go to college and maybe you played for the Harlem Globetrotters or maybe you even played for the ABA, for those who don't know, the ABA was established in the late 60s. But we're talking about an era of basketball where once more you could very well argue that the best players that are available, not comparing them to what's going on today, the best players that are available right now in the 60s are not even in the league because of certain rules they had set in place. It doesn't take into consideration that also, it's still very taboo, especially in the early 60s, for certain teams to draft black players. This also isn't taking into consideration how, there really weren't that many 7-footers in the league, and the players who were 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet or taller normally looked significantly. Those teams who employed those type of players and played them for significant minutes, because that's one thing that very many people love to do. They love to be nasty, and they sit there and say, "Oh, such and such played. He was 7 feet tall," and then you go look up. They played 11 minutes a game. No, not talking about the guy at the end of the bench that barely got PT. We're talking about players who are getting normal playing time. And for a lot of teams in the 60s, a lot of their centers were 6'10" and below, not up. So we're talking about a shorter basketball players, and I don't think it's, subsequently, I don't think it's coincidence either, that normally the teams that employed big men who were 6'10" and shorter were at the bottom of the league when it came to defensive efficiency, defensive impact, and how they were able to, regulate what they were able to do on the defensive side of the floor, which didn't allow other teams such as the Boston Celtics, who had Bill Russell, and even some years of the Warriors and the Lakers when they got Wilt Chamberlain, how they just looked significantly better defensively than the rest of the league. So that's also a significant problem. But I think the biggest aspect of it is we are talking about an era of basketball where we're not even speaking of the best players that are available. For research purposes, what I need you all to do, take the time out to look up Spencer Haywood. Am I sharing it? Am I sharing my screen? I am. Bet. Say less.
Yeah, you are. You hit the share. Yep.
Spencer Haywood versus the NBA. Look that up. It goes into details about how Spencer Haywood is actually filing a claim against the NBA to allow him to play basketball in the association, and they would not allow him because he wasn't 4 years removed from high school within that time frame. And as you can maybe potentially see here, he was claiming hardship, allowing him to play, get some form of employment at something he's good at, but he wasn't able to do it because, once more, 4 years removed. Spencer Haywood would go on to be one of the greatest basketball players of that era, and again is being removed from the league because of that. For those who also do not know, go look up Rick Barry as well. Rick Barry. And am I still? I'm good.
You gotta switch the there you go.
When you go back and you look at Rick Barry, be very mindful. If you all notice, Rick Barry played 2 years in the NBA. Then out of the blue, he decided to play in the ABA. It wasn't for there was for a reason for this. The reason why he went to the ABA is because the Warriors in the NBA decided not to pay him money. For those who don't know how good Rick Barry was in his second year in the league, he was already leading the league at 35.6 points per game. He was also grabbing 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and then he let his team to the finals, got to the finals, and he was averaging 40 points per game. He was averaging 41 points per game. That record stood the test of time for years and years on end. I believe, who broke that record? I think MJ broke that record.
41.
Yeah, I think MJ broke that record. Yeah. But essentially, you can see the caliber of player we're talking about from Rick Barry. You can clearly see the type of talent we're talking about. Rick Barry's 22 years old, balling like that. And now he has to go to the ABA because they're not willing to pay him. So I say all these things is because there are several factors that went into play to why certain people did not play in the 60s and 70s in the NBA. That is undeniably watering down the league. Undeniably. And we're not, again, I want to be clear. I'm not comparing it to what's happening now. I'm not comparing it to what it eventually became. I'm talking about the talent that was available at that time wasn't even available to play basketball like they should have played. Shout out to Bill Russell. He's an amazing player. One of the pioneers of the game. Bill Russell famously stated to Michael Jordan, now we have, now y'all got like 30 teams. Back in the day, we only had 8 teams. So, you had to be the best of the best. Some of y'all other players y'all be playing, they be sitting in the stands. Something along those lines. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that's dope. That's an ill line. But then I grew up. I stopped being a bot. I did research. And I realized, no, some of those players were also in the stands, or they were playing in the ABA because there were certain rules set in place that did not allow them to play. So, no. 60s is whack. 70s is whack.
Ooh.
Bill Russell,
Kareem.
10. He's 10. He's 10.
Kareem,
I'm looking one more thing with Kareem. I'm putting Tim Duncan above him, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I'm putting Tim Duncan above him.
Kobe.
Yeah, he might. Kareem might be like 5th or something like that, bro. And it's even worse when all these things are occurring. Does Mars want to come up here?
I don't know what Mars is doing. He can come on whenever he wants.
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he could come up. My bad. I'll just remove you again. Get out of here. I did not know. I didn't know all this information, and it just makes it worse when I look at players like Kareem, like Bill Russell, like Wilt Chamberlain, when they're not dominating the way they're supposed to dominate. Especially Wilt Chamberlain. It's like very, very depressing that he was not able to dominate the way that he did. And I think it's also very much so telling. I think Dub might have dropped the link. So if y'all want to come in, click on the link. But it is pretty nasty.
Bro.
The caliber of talent is pretty low.
Bro, they're coming around, man. I'm about to shed a tear. Like,
but the problem is that you all didn't have the facts to back up what you all were saying.
You're right. I don't do that shit. I just don't feel like looking into this. I go off of just what I'm watching. And I'm watching these guys play, bro. And I'm like, bro, this shit is not it. And then taking consideration that the talent gap, you're saying the ABA was better, but it was split in half. How am I going to sit here and take somebody dominating in the 70s the same way as somebody dominating in the 2000s when the talent pool of players is split in half because there's 2 different leagues that's competing with each other? How can we take that as serious? That doesn't make sense to me.
And this is not even taking into consideration the drug problem that was going on at that time.
No, don't do that.
But no, that's all. But it's true. I don't know. I can't deny it. There are players who played in the NBA who were overwhelmingly dominant players, who are great players that were going to revolutionize the game of basketball, but they couldn't play because they were on drugs. Like, I can't deny that. I literally can't deny that. That is irrefutably true.
No, you can't say that because you're.
Listen, I got a quick question. Where I missed like the beginning part of the stream, but Lo, where did this like come from? Like, where did this? Were you just bored?
The Dr. J and Rick Berry, when they were giving off their top whatever list, or they're talking about the basketball in general. And then Dr. J had said something along the lines of like, players bouncing around from team to team is really ruining the NBA. And I thought to he was talking about parity. And I laughed at that because I'm like, you're one of the first beneficiary of somebody bouncing around from team to team when Moses Malone went on your team. And that's the only way that you have a championship in the NBA. You by far, and then he did it at a point in time where Moses was an MVP. And in the year before that, Dr. J was an MVP. So the last 2 MVPs got on the same team with one another. The last 2 best players who led their teams to the finals, but they lost, they're runner-ups. They are now on the same team with one another. And then this is back in the NBA. And I mean, if we really want to get into it, this is another reason why. The level of collusion that was going on at the NBA at that time was despicable. There's a reason why a lot of these rules are set in place right now. So for those who don't know, the reason why we have a lottery is because of what happened with Moses. The Houston Rockets traded Moses Malone to the Philadelphia 76ers and got nothing in return for it. The reason why they did that is because they knew in the upcoming draft classes there were going to be dominant figures coming in. That's how they got Ralph Sampson, and that's how they got Hakeem Olajuwon in back-to-back years, essentially. That's why that happened. And so from moving forward, what they decided to do is we're going to now have to have a lottery. But the way that they even got him, there was collusion underneath the table. The Sixers were able to get Moses Malone, the league MVP, without giving up Dr. J, Bobby Jones, Mo Cheeks, or Andrew Toney. They're 4 best players. They did not have to give up any of them to get the MVP. And Houston wasn't looking for any of them because they wanted to tank so they could draft Ralph Sampson. That's what happened. But Dr. J's going to sit here and lie to you and tell you how much better the NBA was back in the day. Stop lying. It was a bunch of collusion. It was a bunch of other things going on. And these are things that we don't talk about out of respect. But quite frankly, if we're going to just sit here and claim that LeBron going from Cleveland to Miami is ruining the league, I have to ask you, Dr. J, what is a cocaine doing in your era? What was Moses Malone going to your team doing in your era? That team was so dominant, Moses Malone predicted they were basically going to sweep everybody. What did that do in that era?
Yeah, he said that, Lo. Facts. He said that.
What did the Lakers being able to get a number 1 pick for basically zilch to nothing, so that later turned into Magic Johnson. How did that turn out to your league? Because the parity definitely wasn't there throughout the 80s for like an 8-year period. What did that do for your league?
No,
What about when the Clippers were basically giving away draft picks left and right all throughout the 80s and 90s for money underneath the table, which is very well documented? What did that do to that league? Oh, okay. So you want to talk about parity? Ironically enough, the most parity that's happened was in the 70s, but it was parity between winning championships and smoking crack. So I don't know about that. And then there was parity in the 2000s, but yet for whatever reason, you have nobody in the 2000s on your team. You don't have Kobe, you don't have Dirk, you don't have Duncan. Even Hakeem played on his roster played on the Rockets for his entire career. You didn't have him on that team either, on your top 10 either. You put Tiny Archibald there, who played 4 years. He criticized putting Curry on the team on the top 10, but then claimed that, Curry hasn't played enough, but has Tiny Archibald, who's played fewer games. I'm tired of it.
Well, we know Dr. J is biased to his generation, his age group,
which is fair. Fair.
Yeah.
But tell us about the crack that was being smoked too as well.
Lo makes a great point. I mean, the racial dynamics, the drug
respect the enhancements,
in that era was at an all-time high. And so Lo makes a very valid point. And those are points that we tend just to dismiss or gloss over, which plays a major role. But listen, man, Julius is an old cat. He has an old mind of thinking, Lo. And so, like you said, I respect what he's doing because that's just who he is. But I don't respect the list and then too, Lo, he's been consistent, bro, with this shit, right? I mean,
he has been.
Asked about this top 10 or bro, he's been consistent. He hasn't waited.
Wrong.
You know what I'm saying? And so that part of it, I mean, I'm gonna give him credit for that. But his whole logic is definitely flawed. You pointed out Tiny Archibald compared to Steph Curry. So you know what I'm saying? What's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. I mean, the hypocrisy by this guy is at an all-time high. But listen, last point. Julius is looked at as such an icon. It's almost like nobody can question what he says. And when you do question what he says, Lo, you're looked at as being different. You're hating. But why is it that we can't question the all-time greats? You know what I'm saying? If Julius says something out of line, bro, we have the right to question why he said that. And it just seems like in today's society, there's like an unspoken word where certain guys you can't go against them. I think Dr. J is just one of them, in my opinion. I don't agree with it, but I mean, it just is what it is.
Doesn't that stem from like the I'm playing in the NBA, I've been around, and you haven't kind of thing? Doesn't that
kind of sort of? But I feel like there's even more pushback to more current players, and which is even worse is that players that played in the 60s and 70s, undeniably, I just like the way that they talk about basketball. I can just tell that they're not really spending that much time watching what's being played right now. And so there's just no way that you can tell me out of your top 10 list, 2 of them only played 90s and afters. So you have the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now we're moving into the 2020s. You're telling me that only MJ and Malone are the only 2 players that can crack a top 10 list when you have Tiny Archibald on that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. When you have other players that are more than adequate options to pick on the team. So again, you can he has his biases, and that's undeniably true, and he has been consistent with those regards. But it's just when I go back and I look at it, you tell me about what's bad for this era, what's been bad for basketball, and then you point out to LeBron and KD bouncing around teams. I would think that doing cocaine is worse. I would argue that the collusion from owners at that time is worse. I would argue permitting players from not playing in the league because they're not 4 years removed from basketball, that's worse. I would argue there being two other options to play basketball in the 60s and 70s between the Harlem Globetrotters and the ABA would make the talent pool in the NBA worse. I would argue that not drafting players because of the color of their skin is worse, but those are all things that, of course, they don't want to bring up, because if you brought that up, then we would have to start having real conversations about the 60s and 70s. So that's what we're here. We're going to have these real conversations as well.
Yeah, hey, Lo, I wanted to...
race. Let me stop.
I wanted to because I only have something quick to say to talk about your main point. A lot of people don't know this, and I just can't respect that era of basketball because there was a limit to the amount of black players that could be on a team. It completely invalidates the league. Like, you're literally saying that some of the best talent are not allowed to play based off of NBA unwritten rules. Like it's just you can't respect this. It's shameful. It's shameful that the NBA even acknowledges. I mean, doesn't acknowledge how badly racist the league was.
Yeah, I get why they don't want to acknowledge it. I mean, but I'm not gonna sit here and stand for this era of basketball or the past 10 to 20 years of basketball being slandered as if like what wasn't being happened in the 60s and 70s. I'm just not like I'm that version of me is gone. I'm not gonna sit here and do it. And again, I want to be clear to everybody. I'm not talking about skill set, because obviously skills have gotten better as time has progressed. I'm not talking about the athlete getting better. I'm not talking about, if you drop Kyrie back in the 60s, they thought he was doing magic. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about purely what was going on in the 60s and 70s. That's all I'm talking about. And when you look at what was actually going on, it's not.
Hey, look, just real quick, bro, because I'm gonna dip out pretty soon here. What's more shocking is this, though, fellas. Lowe talked about two players being on his all-time list since was it 90s? You said MJ and Karl Malone.
Yeah.
Out of all players, we get MJ. That's a household name. I understand it. It is what it is. Why is Karl there?
Yeah, out of all players, Karl Malone.
Right. Why is Karl?
I thought Lowe said he was in his top 10.
No, that's not the
I
J's
feel
top
like
10.
if Dr. J can
why.
put MJ in his top 10 and not get pushed back, he probably would. I'm not
a lot of old players, but I feel like a lot of old players, they have Karl Malone. Like Shaq has Karl Malone in his top 10. At least from what I
mean, out of all the players though, because Shaq I think also has like Kobe. He has Highly Iverson.
Why is Karl there?
Yeah, Karl of all players is like a nasty name to just put there.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, but I'm just saying like older players that those is what some of the older players that they look at. They respect Karl Malone I feel like they don't care about championships as like we care about championships.
Clearly don't care about morals neither. I don't tell you, man.
But
I think
that's on. We're talking about on the court. We ain't talking about off the court.
Right.
Off the court, we know as far as on the court, because to me, because if we are being honest, he is the greatest player to never win a championship. If we're being honest,
and that's fair. And let me be clear, Karl Malone.
I agree.
I agree as well. But Karl Malone is one of the greatest players. Period. I just think that Hakeem is like you can argue that Hakeem and Kobe and Duncan are all just better players.
Right.
I just think in totality, that's just irrelevant because he should not have been allowed to play the sport. Like he literally,
which is another thing. Because if Karl Malone played in the 60s and 70s, he probably wouldn't be playing basketball because they definitely would have got him out of here.
Well, that's for sure.
I mean, they might have. I highly doubt they would have been recruiting Karl Malone in the 60s and 70s.
But one time, you're like, oh, you're done, bro.
You're done.
Yeah, you're done. That's over.
Hey, Lo, let me ask you this question. So, I've been and I think I was on I think it was an open court probably like a week or so ago. Let me ask you this question.
Open court.
Open gym, man.
Open gym. I understand.
Open court on Mars Talk Sports Weekly. Open court.
No. We're removing you. No. Stop.
No, but
open basketball.
Now, because why does everybody look at Bill Russell as? Because most people say he's the best player of that decade, I guess. So, why do you feel like most people, with like given his offensively limited skill set, what he brought to their offensively, why do you think people have him as the greatest without bringing up the championships?
I think just his impact. So like the way that I gauge basketball players, it has way more to just do with how impactful you were as a player. So even if you were extraordinarily limited offensively, if what you were able to do on the defensive side of the floor was so impactful that you could still win games and championships, even without having a solid offensive game, because that's how good you are defensively, then clearly what you do defensively usurps your limitations by a very wide margin. And so that's the lens that many people are just looking at it, that he's such a good defender, which to be fair to Bill Russell, he was a great defender. You're such a great defender that even if you are a negative offensive player, you're still giving me more than enough positive impact defensively to not only make up for that lack of offensive impact, but also for you to be the Celtics being one of the best teams, consistently winning. And it doesn't matter if Bob Cousy was there before Havlicek, Sam Jones when he's older or younger. Like the players were in and out, and they were still at the top of the league in terms of defensive impacts, while still being one of the worst offensive teams, and they were still winning.
I don't even think it's that complex, to be honest. I think, Lo, you had it right with your theory like a few weeks ago. You kind of were talking about how since they didn't have the ability to watch the games, they go by more of a story-based narrative, which is I mean, it's fine if you want to view the game in a story way, but there's two different basketball viewers. There's the basketball viewer who views it as basketball and the story, and they can be two completely different cycles depending on how you view the game. And they didn't have the opportunity to actually watch a lot of the games, so they just went with the story. Oh, Bill Russell, he's the winner. Wilt's putting up all the points, but the underdog, the guy who just gets it done.
The only reason why I didn't bring it up is because he said without naming championships. So if it's championships, I mean that's obviously the answer.
Like how limited could one's like his offense I think was really limited, but like it's still one of the fastest paced eras like that we've seen. So like it wasn't really a problem how limited his offense was because how fast they were playing. So like I just feel like that it was just like null and void kind of thing. You feel me? Like I don't know.
Well, can we get on to the Ras Chapman because I feel like we're glossing over some here, guys. Bill Russell the same way. Is that
yes, Dub.
You got muted, Dub. Don't worry about it.
In my opinion, guys, I think Bill's viewed the same way we view Muhammad Ali, right? Racial dynamics, guy deal with a lot, all on and off the court, raccoons in his house, blah blah blah. And again, there's an unspoken word that when it comes to Bill Russell, you don't question the talent. You don't question his low percentage. You don't question the 13.4 points per game. You wanna know why? He played in an era where he dealt with a lot of things on and off the court. And so again, I think the racial component, Lo, plays a major role the way we view Bill Russell. That's just my opinion. Because
I think that's very valid. Like even though like I'm like
we're just talking strictly basketball, fellas. Let's be honest here. As a big man, he doesn't measure up to most big men. Now, defensively, he's a guru.
Is he better than Patrick Ewing?
No, he's not.
He doesn't have the skill.
As a basketball player,
he doesn't have the skill.
He's not. In my opinion, Dub.
Like if you do the time travel logic, he just doesn't.
I agree, Mr.
Because Patrick was
Mike, put some headphones on, Dub.
Patrick was way better offensively, right? And he was good enough defensively. Keyword, he was good enough defensively to where the shift wasn't it wasn't a major drop off. So the offense and the defense combined, I'm taking Patrick. But Lo, talk about the racial component, bro, because you didn't talk about that. And I feel like that's a huge part why we just give Bill a pass.
I'm confused too, Lo. Didn't you have Bill Russell in your top 5 like 2 months ago, bro? Like,
yeah, but I keep learning more about the 60s.
I said
Lo always does his homework and then he comes back and he reassesses. So I mean, I'll give him that.
Yeah, it sounds like he's switching sides. I don't know.
Nick, go ahead, Nick.
If you want to put in the racial components and all of that, I mean, I guess because I understand what you're saying because how iconic that was. But me personally, I'm just talking strictly on the basketball court.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm just talking strictly on the basketball court. For me, I feel like at some point in time, because most people would say Bill Russell is top 10. Top 5, whatever case, wherever it may have, most people say he's top 10 because he's championships. At what point in time do we have to look at a person's skill set that they bring to the table offensively?
What am I board, huh?
Because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he dealt with the same thing as far as the racial and all that. He stood for what he stood for, but he still has skill offensively. And that's what still had the skills offensively.
Most people still put Kareem over Bill Russell, though.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, yeah, but I have Bill Russell in their top 10. And my thing is, at some point in time, your offensive skill set has to mean something. That has to.
No, not really.
I get where you're coming from, but like if you really think about it, if there was a defender that was so great, no matter what, he always stole the ball and he always got a block, he would be the greatest player of all time. Like, but it just depends on the player and it's very situational. It's not just like a system you can put in and get like an algorithm for a number of a player. Like if there was the greatest defensive player of all time that got every steal every time he fucking reached for the ball and he averaged 20 steals a game, he would be the greatest player of all time, even if he averaged fucking 10 points.
Well,
That
I
don't
think
make sense what you're saying.
No, I don't know about that.
I think Ben Wallace.
20 steals?
Oh,
That's crazy.
I think Ben Wallace is the one player outside of Bill Russell that comes to mind where his impact on defense alone, with a lack of offensive package, was so huge for a team you can't measure it. Because Ben's offense wasn't even on that level. But bro, Detroit went as Ben's defense went, literally, right? And so, listen, you can be a top player, strictly defense, but your defense has to be at an all-time high. And I feel like Bill Russell's is at an all-time high, but compared to Kareem, Hakeem with their offense, he's not from those guys. But it's a valid case. If that makes
I don't
sense.
know about that because I think Bill's defense is like really, really, really good. Obviously, I think he's one of the greatest.
Great, bro.
And I think what sets him apart differently is that the foundation that he set in terms of his schemes and what he does as a player and his own ability and his intangibles as like a big man who is versatile, being literally the first to do it and people still copying and kind of implementing what you did, even from that time, is to me really, really impressive. Not only that, and the impact he had on teams when like he was not playing and they were a losing team, coaching and playing as well is just like, to me, it's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, what was Bill doing that was so great?
I'm gonna tell you a guy that get disrespected the most in the 60s to me, Elgin Baylor.
You cut out, bro.
Herm, you cutting out.
Can we talk about the technical aspect of Bill Russell's defense? Because what was he doing so technically sound, other than jumping straight up, blocking shots, missing shots, rebounding?
I think everybody, like even the people who love that era, like
I'm being honest.
Other than everything he did defensively, what else did he do? Like,
I think you have to come with the understanding that, of course, it's going to be worse because it's just that's how life goes. Like the next generation.
At that time, he was doing elite shit. I get it.
I think just defending without fouling out. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think throughout most of that time he was only getting like 2 to 3 fouls a game, and for somebody at that pace, defending that many shots at the basket, only getting like 2 or 3 fouls a game is actually.
But with the skill level that it was back then, and
that's fair enough as well. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Skill level, how can you foul out? I'm not, and I'm not taking nothing from him because you still have to get out there and play.
That's a good point, Nick. You said, bro. That's a great point you just said.
Yeah. But it's like when I look at I just say this. When I look at what Jokic, because he's a big man, when I look at what Jokic has to deal with, yes, he's poorly defensively, but I just feel like the skill set in this era, with the skill set of this era, I feel like it's way harder to deal with than what Bill Russell had to deal with.
And Bill,
that's obvious.
It's harder to deal with, but you can't say that it's objectively impossible to be like a player like Wilt couldn't be able to play in today's era, because look at what he was. If you look at what he was doing to his era, just statistically, obviously we know he wasn't the greatest, but statistically,
Bill Russell's height low. What is he? 6'8", 6'9", 6'10"? What is he?
No, I think with shoes, I think he was like closer to 6'10".
Okay, listen, bro. At 6'10" in this era, sorry, he's not the same guy. He's just not.
Defensively, I don't know about that.
He's not the same guy. Sorry.
He's not the same guy, but I still think he would be fine. But again,
let's just say, listen.
Shot blocking wouldn't be elite level.
Put Bill Russell on the Kings.
He would still be.
Without besides Sabonis.
Yeah, you take away Sabonis, you put in Bill.
I actually think that's an improvement.
That's hey man, I'm just
Sabonis.
I think a lot of people don't actually watch the games, and a lot of people are surprised when they go back and look and they're like, oh, this guy was actually making good passes. Oh, that was for their understanding of the game. He made a good read. Oh, this guy has good positioning, but a lot of people just don't do the due diligence to actually go back and watch it. So it's kind of hard to have conversations about this.
But again, I want to be clear. Obviously, it's going to be harder to watch it back then because the skill set back then is just insurmountably lower. But the fact that I just believe that there were other players in the 60s and 70s that existed and they were not in the league is, to me, that's just mind blowing to me. That's like imagine even right now, if there was rules set in place that would prevent foreigners from playing in the NBA right now, and so you would have no Luka, no Giannis. you would have like there's like several players in the NBA right now you would not have, and these are some of the Jokic, some of the best players in the association would not be able to play basketball because of a rule set in place. If we knew for a fact that there was a whole nother league right now, like that would undeniably have some of the best players, you could not soundly claim that the talent pool right now is where it needs to be if there were other players that were available. So when you sit there and just say in the 60s and 70s, there's other players that are available and they just can't play, I think that puts into question like the actual talent pool. You can look at the height of some of the bigs, it's not where it needs to be. You can look at just the players who were dominant and their careers cut short due to, regardless if it was drugs or just injuries. It's a lot of stuff going on at that time. And again, not even comparing it to what's going on right now, just comparing it to what was happening at that time. If you were anybody who had the ability to afford college and then go into the NBA, you had such a significant more advantage than everyone else. And at that time, only like 10% of people are going to college and finishing with 4-year degrees. So if you went to college for 4 years, you have such a significant higher advantage than anybody else does. If you have the ability to make it to the ABA, then transfer it to the NBA, you also have a significant advantage. But there's players in the league at that time who are making the league just because they're 4 years removed from college and they had no other guidance in life. So like, I'll just start playing basketball, and they're starting caliber players because of the talent is where it needs to be from.
And low, bro. To Bill's credit, he's been quoted saying that because somebody asked him, like, how would you rate yourself back in those days before you passed? And he said, quote, there were guys that I didn't face that I should have faced. So even Bill has acknowledged that even in his time when he was this big guy, he didn't face the best competition because there were guys like Lowe said who couldn't play.
Okay,
so how can we judge him?
Okay. So Lowe, based off everything what you just said, removing accolades out the way, how was Bill Russell top 10? Well, I ain't gonna necessarily say remove the accolades, but how?
I like I said before, I just think that his ability to impact the game that much. So I think like defensively alone,
with the competition level and the skill set level that it was.
Yeah, but even as time progressed, because then I'll look at like someone like Wilt or Nate Thurman, and they should have been able to dominate to the extent of Bill Russell. And for many years, they just didn't. Some years they did. Some years they came close, but even they weren't able to do as well as Bill Russell was able to do. And I still think that he had such a astronomical amount of impacts as well as innovating what defensive coverages look like for that time period, to where I still think he was ahead of his time. But in my opinion, the other players like Wilt Chamberlain to me looks significantly worse because defensively, like he should have looked way better. I think even Nate Thurman to an extent. But the same can be said about even Oscar Robertson and Jerry West. Like Oscar Robertson came in and was like carrying really great offensive teams through most of his tenure. But a large part of it just had to do with the fact that he was one of the most offensively innovative players at that time, and it really wasn't that much comp on the offensive side. And so if you look at before Oscar Robertson came into the league, guards were leading the NBA with averaging like 7-8 assists. He comes in and like averaging 10+ assists is like a normal now. And so I think all of those things kind of add up into like what's going on.
But my thing,
I know that you can look at these things from stats and try to put yourself there, but you wasn't there. So you can't make these, this is just what it was. This is just what it was. This is just what it was. Oh, they were doing crack. I mean, you didn't
They were doing crack. They were. I don't know what to tell you, but they were.
Hold up. You didn't watch The Last Dance? What did Michael Jordan say in the 80s?
That propaganda.
They was sniffing coke. What did Michael Jordan say they was doing at halftime? They was smoking cigarettes. Keon Clark, he said that I never played a basketball game sober. Ron Artest, halftime. I went and got drunk during halftime. Like,
I don't know what you're arguing.
They're doing drugs while playing basketball. And
alcohol isn't drugs. A, B.
What? Playing a sport?
Well, technically it's a drug, but
if you want to say that, the difference. This is the difference. There are players that played at a high level that were removed out of the NBA during the 70s because they were doing drugs. That's the difference.
Yeah. Not in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. People wasn't being removed.
Not to the same extent. The reason why they implemented the rules because how much drugs was going on in the 60s and 70s.
Boss,
They implemented the rule because of how much was going on in the 60s and 70s.
Thank you. Elevation. For the NBA to be where it is right now, you have to have a foundation. Nothing great.
I'm not denying that.
Nothing great gets built without a foundation, without trial and error. So you can't call that that's basically telling your grandpa in the 60s, oh, you don't know nothing about life.
I never said they knew nothing about it. What I said was you can't argue that. You can't.
You're basically.
I'm sorry to say it. Is the NBA better now if Anthony Davis is playing or when he's not playing?
You weren't in the 60s, so you don't know.
I'll ask you the question again. Is the NBA better now if Anthony Davis is playing or he's not playing?
Like I said, right.
I'll ask you the question again. Is the NBA better if Anthony Davis is playing or is he not playing?
Hold on right quick, Lo. If I'm a 20-year-old in the 60s, that basketball that I'm watching is the best basketball I ever seen.
I'll ask you the question again.
So
is the NBA better now if Anthony Davis is playing or is he not playing?
From your mind, yes, it is. From your mind.
It's better if Anthony Davis is not playing?
I'm trying to tell you that if me being 20 years old in the 60s, whatever that I'm watching in the 60s, a professional basketball league, that's the best I'm watching because that's all I know. That's the only
if
thing
you know that there are better basketball players that are available to play, if I cut out 5 of the top 10 players out the league, you know they exist. You can see, you've seen them play. They can play at a high level. You know they exist. And they're not playing basketball for whatever reason. Does that make the game of the NBA better or worse?
Lo, I wasn't there in the 60s.
I'll ask you the question again.
I can't talk,
if you take the top 10, if you take 5 out of the top 10 players out of the league, does that make the talent pool better or worse?
I don't talk in hypotheticals.
It's not. It's not a hypothetical.
Yes, it is.
Rick Barry played in a league. Rick Barry played in the league. They took him out of the league. That's not a hypothetical.
You don't
Spencer Haywood played in the league. They took him out of the league. David Thompson was in the league. They took him out of the league. I'm not talking hypotheticals. You must not have heard what I said earlier. Everything I'm saying is not a hypothetical. I'm not hypothetically telling you that they took players out of the league.
Just because they took those players out the league don't mean that the league was not still great. Because you weren't there.
Bro, listen to what I just said. I'll ask the question again, bro. If you take them out of the league, does it make it better or worse? I'm not saying that it's not good or great. Does it make it better or worse?
And you're not listening to me. I can't answer that question because I wasn't a 20-year-old in the 60s.
Bro, are you dumb?
What he's saying is if you took Giannis and Luka out the NBA right now, does it make the league better?
If you take some of the best players out of the league, it makes it worse.
No,
period.
No, it doesn't.
Bro, you're stupid.
Yes,
you're dumb.
no,
you're dumb.
No,
You're just stupid, bro.
If you take the 5 best, hold on.
All these guys.
If you take the 5 best players out the league today, basketball is still great. The NBA is still.
Nobody said it's not great.
Okay,
does it make it worse? Does it make it worse?
No.
Okay, wait. So that year on the Warriors when Steph Curry and Clay and Draymond were hurt and they were playing dog shit.
It makes it worse. I don't know what to tell you. Yes, it literally does. If there's less talent in the league, it makes it worse.
It doesn't, because at the end of the day, if you take the 5 best players out the league today, you still have great NBA players.
Nobody said it's not great. Does it make it worse?
Oh, I just answered your question.
All right. Good day, sir. Good day, sir. I can't talk to an idiot, bro. I'm sorry. I can't talk to an idiot.
Hey, Lo.
There's just no other way around. I can't talk to an idiot.
Hey, Lo, let me ask you this question real quick, though.
I can't.
I just want to ask you this. So, who's your top 5? Just your top 5 personally.
Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Duncan, Kobe.
Oh, okay. Well, who's your top 10 then? Who's your second 5?
Hakeem, Shaq, Magic, Curry, Bill.
Why do you have Bill Russell over Will Chamberlain?
I don't think Wilt was nowhere near.
Is every question you ask about Bill Russell? Every show you're on, Bill Russell, Bill Russell, Bill Russell. Can you ask about someone else, please? This guy comes on Open Gym twice a week asking about why Bill Russell's top 10. He comes on here asking about why Bill Russell's top 10. Can you ask about someone else? Just ask about one other person. Ask about Steph. Ask about the team. Ask about Bill Russell.
You ain't even let me what's name.
I already said it though. I view it off of like how impactful you were. If you are so impactful on one side of the floor that it makes up for what you lack on the other side, then you're just better. I don't think Wilt Chamberlain was anywhere near close as impactful as he should have been, or as impactful as Bill Russell. I just don't believe that.
I like how Mars hopped in here and hopped out. That's crazy. That is crazy.
And I can't to the people out there, I just want people to know, bro, this is not what I'm telling you is not a hypothetical. The NBA literally got sued for it. They got sued for it. They went to court and got sued for the fact that they were preventing players from coming in the league after playing or not after 4 years of high school. They got sued for it. That's not a hypothetical. There was literally other leagues and other places to play that we knew for a fact existed. We knew Wilt Chamberlain existed. He was just playing for the Harlem Globetrotters. We knew Connie Hawkins existed. He was just playing in the ABA. We knew Rick Barry existed. He was just playing in the ABA. We knew David Thompson existed, and he was dominating. He was a great player. They took him out because he was doing coke. We knew these players. It's not like we didn't know they existed.
Hey, well, I got you said you value impact most, right? Like impact is the most important shit. So, not the best player, but do you think Draymond Green is more impactful than T-Mac?
Yeah, I would have Draymond over T-Mac and Carmelo Anthony. I have no real.
I don't honestly
know. No one asked you about Carmelo Anthony. No one asked you about
Carmelo. You just said his name. That's normally the convo that we have.
Wait a minute. No one asked about him.
Yo, Mars, let him go.
He's about to bring up Bill Russell. Niggas about to bring up.
I wasn't about to say no. I wasn't about to say nothing about Bill Russell. I promise you ain't about to say nothing about Bill. And so I'm gonna start talking about Bill. Mars, the big bully that came here. I ain't finna say nothing about Bill. Listen, when you say impact, okay, I'm not gonna. But do you think that's because Draymond didn't have the responsibilities that step like that? I say the number one options on their team had to where he could do those others as well.
That's a possibility. I just don't think that. I don't think that even Melo as a first option would be able to win a championship or lead his team deep or have consistent impacts. And he provided that evidence. I agree that as a number one option, who's better, than Melo, because as a number one, you would probably need a lot more offensive impacts. But what somebody does like defensively and what Draymond was able to provide for like 7 years. But that's pretty impressive.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying in the sense of because I feel like Carmelo and these guys had they had the game plan. They had stuff that they had to worry about. Whereas Draymond, him being the third option for a season, and then when KD came, he was the fourth option, I guess.
They both had the same thing on the opposite floor. Draymond, his impact is primarily defensively, so he's worried about everything that's going on the floor on the defensive side. Offensively, he's way more complimentary, borderline and negative in some years. But then you can argue the same thing for Melo. Melo offensively has way more responsibility, but on the defensive side, he doesn't not have that much defensive responsibility. In some years, he's also a negative. It's just the other side of the floor.
But I will also look at it's a plus to Draymond because his impact as far as distributing the ball, as far as playmaking for others.
Yeah, but that's still more complimentary. Those things hold value because of the other players around him way more than like defensively, and that's way more leading the charge in those regards.
Yeah.
Yo, Lo.
Yeah, I know A's 30 about to chew me up, bro. Go ahead, bro.
Nah, I just pause. But like, I just want to ask you two simple questions. That's all. You seem like a pretty logical person. First question is, I noticed a trend with Wilt, right? Do you think the fact that he had over 5 different coaches in his first 7 years in the league affected the way he viewed the game in terms of winning?
I thought you were about to say because he has so many different women. I was like, oh man.
Nah, hell no.
Sure, I do think that Wilt
was
came
pretty
into
racist.
Wilt came into the league, and I don't think he was probably in the most advantageous situation. And yes, I do think that coaching aided him in the process. If I'm not mistaken, though, I still think he had his first coach for like 2 to 3 years, though. If I'm
No,
not
he had his
mistaken.
first coach for like 2 years, and then after
Okay.
that, like the next 3 to 4 years, like literally rotating people.
Yeah.
And upon research, right, I try to find how they were perceived as coaches at that time in their relationship. I'm not gonna lie, majority of those coaches was either trash coaches overall, or they tried to put Wilt in a position where they told him be a dominant isolation scorer and worry about getting your points. I know one coach said that publicly. The other coach, I didn't get that much research on. I know another coach, he actually wanted to stay, but due to his relationship with front office, they actually got him out of there. So I'm just saying, I noticed a trend, right, when it comes to like guys like all majority of people in everybody top 10, they had a Hall of Fame coach during their development in regards to instructing them how to adjust their game towards winning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing in the basketball community and the most egregious thing, we pretend like coaching is like a minute part of success. What is a huge part of success? It might not be as crucial as football, but it's still a huge part of success. What do you say to people that in regards to like coaches in terms of their influence, in terms of players' success, especially towards impact towards winning?
I know. I think it plays a massive role because I think especially and to be fair to both Bill and Will, and even Jerry West and Elgin and all of them, there's only so much that even those coaches can tell them on how to play basketball without them even adding their own level of innovation, because there's only so much to teach them. It's not that much there of like trial and error from other players and coaches before them. But in the general sense, like coaching is like very, very valuable. It's very important. It can definitely make or break a lot of team success. It can make or break, obviously, how someone plays the game of basketball, which it also can make or break the type of statistics that they post up. So I think it matters. I still think that, though, Wilt as a player should have been more effective on the defensive side, at least more consistently than anything else, albeit the way that the Celtics were being coached was definitely more defensive oriented, especially by the time Bill Russell got there. But again, once what's his name? What's the coach for the Celtics name?
Brad Auerbach.
Yeah, once Red had already retired, and you can definitely argue that the fundamentals of what their defensive schemes were already set in place. But even when Red was retired, Bill went on to be the coach and still was coaching them extremely well. And even before Bill got there as a player, Red Auerbach defenses, or at least the Celtics defenses, weren't all that great at all. If anything, there's some years where they were at the bottom of the league. So, albeit, yes, coaching matters, but I do still think that like you still having the ability to do what needs to be done from the coach is way more important than what the coach is scheming up for you.
See, and I think it is right. And it's a theory of mine because we only seen this with like 3 other players. Like I think Westbrook get a bad rap for that. A lot of Westbrook's bad decision, high turnover rate. I think that all again mitigate a little bit if he had a right coach, if he had a Hall of Fame caliber coach during his development. And especially the fact that we all know Westbrook played the shooting guard in college. So he's learning how to play point guard throughout his career. You don't have a Pat Riley. You don't have a Phil Jackson. You don't have even a Dan Tony, the guy like during his development say, hey, you can adjust your game this much to benefit the team and impact the game this way. And I think that's an underrated factor that get glanced over way too much. That's why me personally, I know Wilt's biggest weakness in regards to like, I know your biggest critique of him. Wilt's biggest critique is the fact that he let external perceptions of him affect his game. Yeah. There was literally games he just didn't decide to score. There were games where he got questioned for faking an injury. There were games where he said himself that I did not want to be seen a ball hog. That's why I didn't score as much. That's why I passed more. That's the biggest gripe I have against Wilt. But we also got to take into effect the whole context, the fact that man had 5 different coaches his first 7 years. That's 5 different people telling you how to win. So it's like I think that's a huge factor in terms of like your perspective on the game. My last question to you, Lo, because I know competition is part of your criteria. How much, if competition is part of your criteria, then right? Do you weigh it equally amongst everybody? Because we all know every era has their own negatives to it. Like the '90s expansion era, that talent for the top end teams, the middle teams especially, deviated because they couldn't hold on to some of their key role players. Correct?
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a fly. I'm sorry.
Okay. So like the point is like every era has their negatives and positives, right? So how much you take into account other negatives in regards to that affects competition in regards to measuring other great players too?
Yeah, I think that definitely comes into play, and so I hear the whole '90s argument as well. I think, however, as we know, as time progressed, a lot of that talent evened itself out. But then they did hit another expansion in the late '90s as well. So yeah, that's all true, and of course, there's injuries that affect every era of basketball. I just think that for the '60s and '70s, there's like systematic problems that are set in place that plagued the entire decade, right? So the ABA isn't just like a once in every 5-year thing, like an expansion. That's something that happened from 67 to like 76 or something like that for basically a whole 10-year span. That is a 10-year span where talent is not in the league that should probably be in the league. The Harlem Globetrotters existing happened throughout the 60s and was very popular up throughout the mid 70s as well. That is an extended period of time that is removing talent from the league. Cocaine is a problem that is existing throughout the 60s and 70s, so much so that it was like, all right, we need to set a rule
in the 80s,
set in place in the 80s as well, where we have to set a rule in place leading up to the 80s. Collusion underneath the table with owners and trying to sell draft picks to get money on the side and all that yada yada yada. Those are things that stunted the growth and progression of certain organizations purposely, which then allowed other organizations to stack their rosters.
Like
and it got so poor that they eventually had to set rules in place. Those are all things that were happening through the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. So like those are things that are way more frequent and happening much more often versus an expansion teams that are being implemented into the league in the early 90s or late 80s, and then it comes again in the late 90s. Like by the time there's another expansion team, then the league has caught up to in a certain extent, especially at that point in the 80s and 90s with those expansion teams. They're even allowing more foreign-born players to come over and play basketball. So there's still more basketball being played, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, last question, Lo. Because I know the thing that's underrated is contracts, right? And you and I both know the 90s contract was some of the worst contracts we've seen in NBA history. They were very restrictive. They actually try to incentivize players not to use a free agency to move somewhere. Actually, like for example, Patrick Ewing had the opportunity to leave the Knicks in the mid 90s, but was because of his contract, if he were to leave the Knicks, he would have lost 30% of his contract of his worth.
Yeah. Hold on, if you can remove, I'm just rotating people in. So
yeah, no doubt.
Obviously not you. Not you. I started. But go ahead, you got it.
Yeah, so I'm saying is I think this is me personally. I just don't judge players on stuff they can't control. You know what I mean? Like you like Bill, I don't care. And you notice for the Magic too, like Magic in the early 80s. He can't go to commissioner. He can't go to commissioner like, yo, this subpar below 400 below 40 win team, these niggas are garbage. I'm protesting. We can't play these dudes. No, you play who's in front of you. And same thing with every condition that you face in the league. I just think it's kind of low-hanging fruit to punish any player, regardless of era, like to the conditions in which they played under, because they just simply can't control it.
You can't control it, but you can definitely benefit from it. And so then it goes into context of just putting in things into proper context. So sure, like the 60s numbers are higher than everybody else's, but we don't just look at those numbers as raw numbers and just say, oh, well, all these players are averaging way more rebounds, way more points, so they're just better scorers, rebounders, passers and playmakers because they're averaging more assists. Like we don't come to those conclusions. We just put it into proper context. And so I think that the context needs to be properly set in place when it comes to what was actually being allowed at that time. So blanketed statements like Dr. J making a blanketed statement of, oh, the league was just worse back then, or the league is worse right now because players are bouncing around, when there's like undeniable truths about what was happening in the 60s and 70s that undeniably made the league worse to the point where it was on the brink of collapsing. And then you had to sit there and change rules to make sure it didn't actually happen. So I think that there's certain rules and regulations and style of play and certain things that just undeniably, even for the era it made it worse. So you just put things into its proper context. I have a hard time believing that, again, if Jordan was doing the things that Jordan did, or if even Shaq, like imagine if Shaq averaged like 40 points for a whole season, and then we later learned that like 10 of the best big men in the league were playing in another league. Like I don't think we would hold it in the same regard. Or even now,
like I know you mentioned that for Shaq, even in the 2000s, you said it yourself. The competition Shaq played at his position in 2000s wasn't as high as people said, but it didn't matter. He still dominated. He still played who was in front of him. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's true, but does it not give a better depiction of who Shaq was as a player when he goes up against Tim Duncan and David Robinson, and he can't do the same thing he's doing against Rick Smits?
No, I think in terms of like providing certain matchups, like if you would like, I don't mind adding context at all. Adding much context needed, especially if it's factual. It's just a matter of like when you can point out to say, okay, Shaq didn't have as much success as he did against Tim Duncan, Sabonis, and certain other stretch out bigs than he did opposed to Mutombo or Ben Wallace, and so on and so on, right? Mm-hmm. That's fine to point that out, but you just got to also acknowledge too that whoever he played against, he still impacted the game this way. And it's the same thing with Jordan. Like when people compare Jordan's scoring acumen to Kobe's scoring acumen, obviously Jordan's a better athlete, but like Jordan benefited immensely from illegal defenses.
Yeah.
But we still give Jordan props of, even despite of that, he still dominated individually.
But do you not then also put into context that even though Kobe's accuracy and efficiency isn't as high as others, that you have to put into context that, oh, he's playing in an era where it's zone defense and it's not enough spacing. Like those are all things that Kobe can't help, but you still put that in proper context, correct?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I have no problem.
Yeah, you just put it in proper context. You put in proper context that they were doing cocaine. That's it. That's it. you just put the crack context. That's it. That's all. That's all I'm asking. Just put the context of that there was crack, that some black people couldn't play, that they were preventing people from playing until 4 years removed from high school.
No, no. Everything you said about the 60s, that's why I don't rank the 60s. I think the 60s is the worst era in basketball. But like, that's just me personally. I just don't rate like what Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain do. Time travel, like my nigga, it is what it is. They play with conditions. And last thing too, though. This last question, I promise the last question. How much you taking the fact rule changes that because of a player's dominance?
Oh, wow. I think I know what he's about to say. The rule changes. I think that the rule changes were what they were. I think a lot of players, because the one thing I almost tried doing that, but then what I realized is that I think a lot of those players also had to play against, not a lot, they had to play against those rule changes as well. But more importantly, they had to figure out ways around the rule changes. So I remember maybe like 2 or 3 months ago when I had said, hey, man, in the 90s, the only players I really respect are players like Hakeem and Jordan. And the reason for that is because even though, yes, they benefited from illegal defense, they also found ways to defend in a very impactful way, even though illegal defense was there. Whereas on the other side, Barkley, he just benefited from it. He didn't try to figure out a workaround around the illegal defense on the other side of the floor. He just benefited from it and moved on. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like all of a sudden like, oh, Barkley now drops 5 slots down, but it does put into perspective about, okay, you look as efficient as you did because of that versus Dirk being nearly as efficient as you are as a scorer and had to go up against way more complicated defensive schemes. I'm probably going to lean more to believe that Dirk is probably just a better scorer than you are. So that's how I would gauge it. But I also think that there should be people who should be praised. So I do think that Pippen, Jordan, Hakeem's defensive regiment in an era where they put limitations on what they could do defensively in terms of defending in space, I think that they should be praised. And I also think in the vice versa. That's why I said I think that Drew Holiday is one of the best defensive perimeter defenders the league has ever seen, because he's having to defend in an era where they've removed his ability to defend in many regards, and he still has the ability to stay in front of players. I think that should put him in higher regards as a defender, because he still found ways around the rules that are set in place.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You kind of halfway answered my question, but I've been hawking the mic.
I got you. My man, Christoph.
Yo, what's up, Lo? It's Ralph.
What up with you? Oh, Ralph. Oh, hey, my man, Ralph. What up, my boy?
Salute, bro. Salute everybody on the panel. How y'all doing today?
What up?
Bro, Come on, man. This Wilt slander got to stop, man.
Hey,
Bill,
man.
this man Bill, he got an advantage over Wilt because the rules changed. Like he couldn't lean on the defender and all that, and the defender can push off. Like,
Okay.
like every level of from high school on to the NBA, he had rules changed to benefit the defender, to take away his game, and he still prevailed. You know what I mean, he never fouled out of a game. That played,
But wouldn't that also benefit him as a defender as well?
yeah, that's why he's a better defender than him because he was in defending offensive players. He was the best offensive player.
I know, but what I'm saying is that you're right, that there were rules set in place that handcuff Wilt offensively, but that also means that would aid him defensively. So he benefited from those rule changes as well, just on the other side of the floor.
Correct.
So I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's, and he still wasn't as impactful as Bill Russell defensively, even with those rule changes.
Did you look at them old stat sheets when it was writing down how many blocks he was really doing?
No, I'm not saying he was I'm not saying he was a bad defender. I'm just saying he wasn't as good as a defender as Bill was. So even when they were implementing,
I'm a defender than him.
But at that time, the value of being a perimeter defender, especially as a big, isn't that high. It's way more
versatile.
I go off of what's more impactful, and at that time, being a rim protector is way more impactful than being a perimeter.
What do you mean? We say that Bill Russell is the greatest rebounder, but who has more rebounds than him per game every year? In average, totals.
I don't say that Bill Russell's the best rebounder. That's what y'all say. I think Dennis Rodman.
So that makes him a better rim protector.
What? Better rebounding makes you a better rim protector?
Yeah, he altered the shots better than Bill.
Altering the shots, but grabbing rebounds are two different things.
Rebound is not rim protecting.
No.
They wouldn't go in there against. They would go in there against Bill, but wouldn't go.
Hey, Lo, I got a question though.
Yeah, rebounding is. I hear what you're saying, but rebounding is not.
I got a question, bro.
Yeah.
What's up? Where you got Bill Russell ranked all time defensively?
10. Oh, defensively, like 1 or 2.
Who's one?
If it's not him, it's Hakeem.
You have him over Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan's third for me.
And who do you have for?
KG?
You have him over KG?
Yeah, I got him over KG too, bro.
Why?
Again, let's just go back to impact, bro. I think Bill, even after everything I'm saying, I still think Bill's impact is way, way better than what I think a lot of people give it credit for. Like way, way, way more.
You don't think KG's impact on defense was on Bill's level?
No. I think KG's a more versatile defender, but who's impacting it more? No, it's not KG. No.
Considering the times played, though.
Yeah, no. No. Hakeem, Tim, wait, I'm just be Bill Russell. I can show you. Bill Russell was leading those defenses to such a ridiculously high level that it would actually alter their average. Like they were such an outlier amongst everyone else that like there would only be, it's kind of hard to explain, but like the average would be lower than what it actually, like the defensive rating average would be much lower than what it was supposed to be. But because the Celtics were just so great defensively, it made like half of the league look bad defensively, even though they really weren't that bad as a defensive team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm saying he had good defenders around him too, though.
Yeah, but some of those years, and this is where I think people just kind of overstate some of those players. Like Bob Cousy, I don't think he was a good defender. I don't think a lot of those players were that good of defensive players. I just think they just benefited from
Bill Russell.
I just don't think that they were that good at defensive players. I think like Sam Jones, I think was good. KC was probably good as well. Havlicek was solid, but that was like later on in his career. But like some of those players didn't play when they retired. They were still great defensively. When they were in their rookie season, they were still defensively. They were getting older and declining. They were still great defensively. Like those players. But as soon as Bill Russell retired, he had a great defensive team. As soon as he retired, bro, they were like one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. And before he got into the league, I think they actually might have been one of the worst, or if not the worst defensive team in the NBA. A great example of this is like, I'm not sure right now. Age 30 came back up here, so apparently I might have said something that was factually incorrect. In 1967, right? They had an 84. They had a defensive rating of 84.2, right?
Mhm.
The league average is 93, and you need to be below this to be above league average.
Yeah.
In a 9-team era, there's really only like 3 teams that are above league average. You can say 4.
You see, that's what I'm saying. It's like.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like if it's average, it should be like 5 or more, something like that. There's really only
but like
2-3 teams.
It's like, all right, who's the second team then? Who is second? Because 9 teams is not really. It's like average. Like it's hard. Even you said it yourself. Not the best people was in the league.
But okay. So then this also goes back to my Wilt thing, my Wilt theory. If Wilt should have also been at the top of the league. Now, some years he was. I think in 66 or 67 he was. I think he actually was. But then if like Wilt, as good as a defender he wasn't doing those things. And I think Wilt was actually on solid defensive teams as well, or he had solid defensive players around him, especially when he went to the Lakers. For whatever reason, the Lakers, they just, even when they added Wilt on the roster, they still weren't as good as defensively as Bill Russell was.
Yeah, but Wilt's not one of the, I don't think Wilt's one of the top 10 defenders all time. I think KG should be over Bill Russell.
Fair. But you can then argue that KG, even when he got to when he got defensive help around him in 08, which is a great example. That's what I'm saying. It's one of the greatest defenses, but it's still not as great as Bill Russell's defenses.
You don't think so?
It's close, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, how it is basically is like low.
It's close though. It's close.
It's how far you are to what the average was during that season, during that era. That's how it. So no teams in NBA history had that much differential.
I get what you're saying. It's only 9 teams. Like I get what you're saying.
Okay.
But did you? I see what you're saying as well. But Bill Russell is leading Celtics defense so far ahead of the pack that it's actually altering what the average really should be.
Yeah,
because
like
everybody else is like much closer to 90, and Bill Russell and them are like sub 85. So nobody should be that far away. So honestly, the average, if you took the Celtics off, the whole league average would alter for probably like 2 to 3 points.
I get
what I'm saying? Like
it's like if you have a class of 9 people, right, and someone has a 99 average, everyone else has 79s, low mid 70s. But you have a class of 30, someone has a 97 average, 95 average, but everyone has a 90, 88. Like I get what you're saying, but the average is gonna go up, of course, because there's less people. That's why it's going to go so much. That's why it's going to go. That's why it's going to change.
It's going to change, but not by much though. It's not. If you take,
you said it's going to change by like 2. That's not.
No, what I'm saying is it's not going to change as much as it would have changed for Bill Russell, because albeit the sample size is smaller because only 9 teams, it's still not going to swing that much. And we can go even a step further. In 2009, the Celtics were on pace to be another historic defensive team, and then KG got hurt. They went from being a historic team to like the second best team, right? Or the second or third best defensive team. When Bill Russell was off the floor, bro, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. They went from a historically great defensive team to one of the worst.
Yeah, but
that's the difference.
That's a time where people playing 40 minutes a game, 48 minutes a game, bro. Playing the whole game,
but
right?
You took KG off. They're still. Who was KG's backup? What, Big Baby Davis? What the hell are you talking about?
But I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying. Relative to there, the backups are way better.
Nigga, Big Baby Davis, come on. Come on. If I take KG off and his replacement is Big Baby Davis,
I don't think it would be Big Baby Davis. I think it would be James Posey. I think they would just put him out the floor. I don't think it would be Big Davey.
James Posey wasn't on the 09 Celtics.
It was definitely big.
It was Big Baby. He started 16 games that year. It's Glenn Davis.
Yeah,
it would have been Big Baby
Man,
Davis.
Big Baby is not.
They don't have a better defender on the
Don't
bench.
nobody associate defense with Big Baby.
He's the one who started the 16 games after KG
No,
got hurt.
I know. I'm saying off the bench, they don't have a better defender.
But all of those players also played when KG was there.
Yeah, and when KG goes out, you're not going to just put any other defender from your bench. You got to put somewhere in that forward position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no other forwards on the team.
Big Baby, I'm not saying that there's not. What I'm saying is like Leon Poe was another one that was on the bench. Scalabrine.
Like at that time, it's going to be up to Perk to hold down the defense for the Celtics.
Yes, basically.
That's it.
So, and to be fair,
they have Rasheed Wallace that year?
Huh?
They didn't have Rasheed Wallace that year?
Yeah, I'm about to say Rasheed Wallace was.
That's 2010.
I mean, even if they did, what you expecting she to do for defense?
I'm about to say at that point in his career, she ain't doing nothing for defensive.
Was he that bad?
At that point,
defensively,
he was like 36 at that point.
Yeah, them knees are done.
She retired in 2013.
Yeah.
He was 35 in 2010 when he was playing for the Celtics.
Oh,
yeah.
He was done.
Like
So no, Rasheed is not going to alter. So the point I'm making is that KG got hurt in the 09. They went from a historically great defensive team to almost to the degree of the Celtics, or the older Celtics, and then they dropped to like the second or third best defensive team. When Bill Russell was off the floor, bro, they went from like a historically great defensive team or the best defense in the NBA to the worst. That was the difference. Before Bill Russell got on that Celtics team, I think they were the second worst defensive team in the NBA, and they went from the second worst to literally the best. In 1956, they were 6th out of 8 defensively. The very next season, they're number 1.
They kept the same team when Bill Russell left.
When Bill Russell retired, Sam Jones, I think, retired alongside with him. I think that was the only other person who you could argue has some type of defensive merit alongside him. They went from the number 1 ranked defense while being 6 points below league average to being a league average defensive team the very next season.
So they were the best team to league average. Okay.
Yes.
Lo, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
All right, bro. So where do you have Bill Russell ranked all time?
10. Oh my god. 10.
10?
Yeah. I would just put it on the screen.
No, that's fine.
But before, to be fair, for those who don't know, before I had him like top 5.
You had him top 5 before?
Man, he gave him the competition tax, man.
Okay, wait. So
I'm waiting for you to do that Kareem too, but.
Okay, so for the 60s,
Kareem was getting close.
You better not.
Like, are you saying that's one of the worst eras? The 60s was one of the worst eras.
60s and 70s, I think I'm getting to the point.
Okay,
I already think 70s is the worst era. I think 60s,
I like that.
60s.
I like that. Okay. So how do you feel about the 2010s and 2020s?
I think.
How do you feel about that?
I think the first
they're better 60s.
Half, no, the first half of the 2010s is also one of the worst eras in NBA history.
Okay, I actually like that. I like that.
I have a whole video about that as well.
Okay. And you have Bill Russell 10.
That's why LeBron is trash.
You have Bill Russell 10? You say LeBron's trash? Okay, that's fine.
He was dominating a weak era in that early 2010s, man.
That's fine. Okay, so why don't you have so where do you have James Harden ranked? Where do you have James Harden ranked?
What, top 20, I guess? I mean, the top 30.
Top 20?
No, top 30.
That's actually
top 20. He thought we were bonding for a second.
Yeah, I thought we were cool. No, I did think we were cool because I like
not top 20, bro.
Okay, I'm not. Let me talk to Lo for a second. Let me ask Lo a question. Let me just ask. I'm trying to figure out something. So you're saying James Harden is? Oh, I'm not feeling that though. I'm not feeling that because you look at this.
Are you one of those who think that KD, if he never won championships, he's right next to James Harden?
KD's just KD's wherever he's doing is whatever he's doing. I'm not even. I don't know. I don't talk on KD. You know, it's a personal thing. You know how it is sometimes. Okay, but all I'm saying, he's one of the greatest offensive players of this generation, bro. You gotta look. Wait, but I don't want to be the guy who's like tween behind the back.
He's one of the greatest offensive players of all time.
People don't understand that. People knock him for free throw merchant. What's wrong with that?
Nobody.
It's a skill. It's a skill. No, I feel like that's a skill. He's baiting y'all. He's making the rest. Yeah, That's a bucket. The ball's going in the net.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Would you guys agree?
What you trying to say, Ford? What you trying to
Okay,
say?
so okay. Let me get to it. Let me heat up.
For sure.
All right.
Hey, yo.
All right. So now that I'm looking at this, he was running one of the best offenses I've ever seen. Maybe one of the best offenses in the NBA ever, right? Right? 2010s, little, with the Houston. Wait, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
He was running a great offense. So what are you saying? But not, I don't think one of the greatest ever, but one of the greatest.
What did you say? It's historic though.
I have to double check.
Don't do.
I don't want to jump out the window.
It was historic.
He almost had him, man.
So that's not offensively historic, y'all. Not come on.
It didn't reach historic heights until CP joined.
Okay, that's fine.
But it was still he still led really great offense.
That's fine. So how come that doesn't just boost him up a little bit? Look at the competition in the 60s. Wait. Let's talk competition.
There's several other players that are ahead of him that didn't play in the 60s and 70s. They did very similar things that what you're talking about. Everything you just argue is the same argument for Steve Nash. Steve Nash also did similar things.
I'm gonna let you get that off, but look. Steve Nash
Dirk also did similar things.
No, I agree. That's actually facts. Dirk, one of my goats. He's just not top 10 to me. But look. I have James Harden top 10, and I want to explain to you why. No, I'm not trolling. I'm dead serious. I'm not playing. No, stop, bro. No, can we actually be open-minded and actually talk ball for a second, Lo? Because I actually don't even want to. I don't want to waste your time. I'll get as soon as you cook me. I'll get out of here. I won't even let you.
Go ahead.
Why is he top 10? Go ahead.
Okay, because look. You brought up Steve Nash. You brought up Dirk, right? Okay, who are the best offensive players in your top 10?
Wait, who's your top 10? Who's your top 10?
Bro, let's not get into my top 10 right now. I'm just trying to see what you guys are feeling out right now. Okay? So how do you guys feel about who's in your top 10? Like you say Kobe's up there, probably Curry. Those guys are probably in your top 10.
Offensive players?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kobe, Curry, Jokic, Jordan,
LeBron. Yeah,
Nash.
Kareem.
Nash. Yo, okay. I'm sorry. Have you guys seen Nash do a step back like that though? Let's be real though. Let's be real.
Have you seen Harden have a year where he averaged less than 2.5 turnovers?
Talk about the 35 points average. Talk about that. No,
talk
because
talk about the historic turnovers.
Nah, bro, because you guys, look at his teammates. They're just fumbling the ball and shit. You guys need
talk about the playoff translation.
You know we have the tracking numbers to know what's a bad pass and what somebody else fumbled. We have those numbers. No.
Okay.
Yeah, nigga.
Also,
You got me.
Talk about the playoff translation as well.
Talk about the playoff translation.
Okay, I'm not even talking. Okay, I'm talking regular season. I can't lie to you guys. But
regular season too,
bro. Because is everything a chip? Is that all that matters?
We didn't say win. We didn't say he had to win. We did not say he had to win. We just saying.
Okay, you're right.
Why didn't he perform?
No, stop. Low, did you answer his question?
What is his question? I told him I gave him players.
Have you seen Steve Nash do a step back like that? Be honest.
No, that's what I'm saying. Have you seen Steve Nash ISO like that? ISO like that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Steve Nash did not influence a whole new generation of players. Not like James Harden.
I'm not saying he didn't isolate like James Harden, but he was isolating. Yes.
Bro, you guys don't know, bro. Maybe it's because you guys are.
How much do you respect difficulty? Like
100%. Bro, Kobe's number one for me.
Not you, Jay.
Kobe's number one.
How much do you respect difficulty?
Bro, difficulty is everything.
It's difficult to have one of the most efficient offenses of the past decade by you just being an ISO player.
When?
Harden.
That's what I'm saying.
No. What year?
Huh?
I don't have a year in mind.
Melo's the better isolation player.
I just watched Bucks.
The years that he did that, Chris Paul was also on the roster. It wasn't when it was just him.
Okay, I understand. Okay, but look, other great players, other great offensive players have played with great offensive players. Let's talk about it. This is what we're talking about. Come on. And CP3 is a bomb. He just, bro, let's talk about it. Some of you guys might not like that.
That's like 18 and 10.
The closest that he got to it is 2017. In 2017, before Chris.
Yeah, I would agree.
But in 2017, he wasn't even a number one ranked offense then. So the year that he was a number one ranked offense is when Chris Paul got there.
I mean, Warriors were a thing. Like, let's not.
But you have to think about this. Kevin Durant.
Even see
what he was on.
But even before then, even if you look at relatively speaking,
the
2017 Rockets are right around like relative +6 league average at that point. Bro, Curry's done that before. Dirk has done that. Nash has done that. Kobe's done that. Like Eric, like that's been something that's done in the
I
last.
don't like Nash. I don't like Nash in that. I really don't like
No,
Nash
I
in
don't
that.
care what you like. I'm telling you what he did.
Man,
Like,
the facts are the facts, Playboy.
I don't care what you
Nash
like. I'm
fans
just
do
telling
this
you
thing where
he
they
did
run to
that.
real.
No, I'm cooked. No, I'm cooked. Statistically, I'm cooked.
Let's talk about the game.
Statistically, I'm cooked. But when I'm talking to that, I'm sitting down with my family, and we're just about to turn on a Houston game, and I'm just like,
not
dang.
playoff game, not playoff game.
Not a playoff game.
Oh,
not a playoff game. I know you're not turning no playoff game.
I would say that. Dude. Like,
Yo,
I know you're not turning no playoff game.
I think
I'm not talking playoffs. I'm not talking
I
playoffs.
think Harden playoff
Oh, you
goals
talking
is
about the
Gordon.
regular season? He's cooking Orlando.
Bro, he's dropping 50 balls like for fun. I'm just like shocked, bro. I've never seen someone do it like
Nash
that.
for cooking. No.
The playoffs?
No,
Bro.
you said when James Harden is cooking Orlando, nigga. You can talk about Steve Nash cooking random teams in the regular season as
But
well.
that's not my. He said let's eliminate playoffs. I'm not saying that. He's talking about.
I'm not
let's talk
talking
about
playoffs.
Nash cooking the San Antonio Spurs
Let me talk about Nash.
in
Let
the
me talk about Nash.
playoffs.
Wait. You guys are talking about Nash right now, but think about this. Tween, drive to the rock. Jordan's not doing that in today's NBA. Jordan's overrated too. Kobe is actually talented.
My God,
Kobe
this is what it's
That's why
about.
you got me on Harden. You got me on Harden. But Jordan between cross is not working in today's NBA. Kawhi is locking Jordan up. Kawhi is locking. Paul George is locking Jordan up. You guys don't know. You guys don't know. You guys, I understand. I love Jordan. I have Jordan Gamble as my GOAT. I'm not gonna lie. Jordan Gamble's GOAT. Bron is 2. I don't care who's 3. I got Kobe. But I don't care who's 3. Realistically, but at the end of the day,
Who's 4?
bro, like put in Magic or Kareem. Put in Magic, Kareem, and that's I put in Harden somewhere.
Magic.
What? Wait.
My bad. Go ahead, say it again.
Klay Thompson is underrated. He's a top 2 shooter all time.
Oh, I thought he was about to say Klay Thompson's a top 2.
Boy.
Paul George underrated too.
No,
All-time player.
Name the top 5. What is your top 5?
Okay, my top 5. Number 1, Jordan Gamble. Number 1 is Jordan Gamble. Number 2, Bron, of course. Bron. Number 3, Kobe. I'm gonna give it Kobe. I'm sorry. Number 3, I got Kobe. Number 4, this is when it starts getting freaky because I don't really care like at this point. Like I'll give it like Magic because I really throwing that John. I like Magic. And then probably I got James Harden after that. And then you can put whoever you want. Tim Duncan's overrated. I'm so sorry, you guys. Bro, Tim Duncan is sorry, bro. He's so soft. He's skinny. He's frail, bro. Any other? No, seriously though. Any other center that's like a man, get the ball. Hey, he's a Wembanyama. Let's go, bro. He's a Wembanyama in your mama. Like, bro, let's be real. Like,
He's disrespecting Tim Duncan, and he is universally respected as the greatest power forward by his peers.
You have Harden as a top 5 player. That's what you just said.
Of all time.
He's top 6 to 7. It's not exactly top 6 to 7, man. I'm not really like. I'm not. My top 3 is secured, but everything else, Harden's top 5.
Is this like offensive players,
top 10.
All time.
Harden is top 10. Just from what I've seen, I don't even critique basketball like this, but I just watch basketball. I love basketball.
Are you
talking about offense or all time?
I'm talking all time.
So you didn't watch the play?
You're gonna save yourself, Jalen.
I fuck with that.
No, man, I'm talking all time. Because when at the end of the day, no, it's fine. In a few years, you're gonna be watching some Harden stuff. You're gonna be like, yo, like.
They don't know, bro. They're going
like you're gonna be like, yo, like
I'm gonna watch a lot of.
You're gonna look at it.
You're gonna watch that game in February and be like, man, he was cooking.
Some that work.
You're like watching February games. You're right.
Listen, when you're 19, Harden is the best player you ever watched. You're gonna learn one day.
In the regular season, yes. I'm gonna
watch that Christmas Day game, man. He was
in the regular
cooking.
season. He's the best player I've ever seen.
In
the
April,
regular season,
April 3rd game he had. Oh man,
That's Steph Curry. He's the best player.
Now as soon as May kick in, it's finished.
Okay.
Even April, damn near. It looks shaky in April too.
Hey, yo, as soon as May kick in, it's done.
Wait, but why do you guys underrate Curry like that though? That's what I really don't understand.
Wait, you got Harden over him.
You have Harden over him.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
Why?
Like,
yo, dog.
Drop up 50 all that. Like, oh, Harden. You guys don't know because at the end of the day, this is that new. Bro. James Harden influenced a whole group of players. In the NBA, you see it now. Everyone's tweeting. You want to know why? Bro, not because of Curry. Curry didn't change the game. Gilbert Arenas changed the game, bro. You guys gotta think about this stuff, bro. You guys are not tapped in. Not even Gilbert. Not even Gilbert. You can name
Let's
other
talk
perimeter
about
point
it.
guards. Name other perimeter point guards that were just letting it fly off the dribble. It's not Curry. Kids,
So
I
why?
was pulling up for 3 before I watched Steph Curry play basketball. What are we talking about?
So why didn't the league? Why didn't the league as a whole start shooting a bunch of threes until post Curry 2016?
Okay, you cooked me there. I'm not even gonna answer that. You cooked me there. I'm cooked there. I already know where you're going with that. I'm cooked. But that's fine. Yo, you guys.
He's
No, that's fine.
avoiding the cooking.
No, that's fine. You can cook me. You can cook me. That's cool. But I know what I'm talking about at the end of the day. You can cook me.
You know what he said.
I'm gonna take my hand off the stove, bro. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking. I watch ball.
Take your hands off the button, bro. Take your hands off the
Who paid
button.
you, bro? Who paid you, bro? What
Bro,
Take your hands off the button,
bro.
Both your knee pads and tell Harden to leave you alone, bro.
Oh, bro, that's inappropriate. That's inappropriate, bro. That's inappropriate because I didn't come here. I didn't demean you. I didn't demean you. I didn't question you as a man. I didn't demean you. And
Yeah, he was violent. I ain't gonna lie, you took it too far.
you're violating, man. I didn't even disrespect you. And that's why I would spit in your mouth in person. Bro, I would spit in your mouth in person, boy.
Thank you.
Who
Thank
paid
you.
that guy, bro? Who paid that guy?
Yo, Minor, go ahead, go, bro. We about to be.
Yeah, my man wildin'. I actually had two questions. One, taking Bill Russell out of the equation for the Celtics run, who do you think was the biggest contributor to those championship runs?
I guess because I think in the second half it was John Havlicek. And
What the first half?
First half, either Sam Jones or Heisen, excuse me.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go. Why don't you think Sam Jones gets the respect he should as one of the better shooting guards? He seems to get always neglected on a lot of lists and a lot of top fives when you're talking about shooting guards.
Well, from my understanding, I think a lot of value and some value of Sam Jones was way more predicated on the defensive side, and so like numbers are not going to accurately depict that. And I also think that because they weren't really an offensive oriented player, him being one of the best go-to scorers throughout that entire tenure also kind of goes underneath the radar as well. I agree though. I think from a pure scoring standpoint, somebody who was providing as much offense as possible or as much offense as needed for a more defensive oriented team, he should probably be respected way more in many regards. But I just think that it goes overlooked because it was a more defensive oriented team. And I think all of the other players that kind of go along there. But I think especially between the late 50s when him and Bill came into the NBA, really the 60s to like 65, 66, I think that he was quite easily the second best player on that roster. And then when Havlicek started to ascend when Havlicek, they brought in another volume scorer that can kind of aid them out. And then that's when Havlicek kind of took over. But I definitely think that Sam Jones should get talked about way, way, way more. But and also he was a guard in an era where it's Oscar Robertson and Jerry West. Like making all NBA team at that point was probably very difficult for him as well. So that was probably another problem.
Do you think Sam Jones is a top 10 shooting guard?
I mean, I think there's an argument. I think I have between him, T-Mac, at around like 9 to 10 spot. Reggie Miller around there as well. It's an argument though. I don't think it's a terrible argument. If you said that he's 9 or 10, I think the shooting guard position after like 5 or 6 is really up for grabs. Depending on how you feel about George Gervin, I don't know if he's a forward or a 2. That's another name as well. You can kind of throw in there as well.
See, I always consider Sam Jones closer to the top of the 5 than the bottom of the 5 because he was responsible for a lot of those clutch moments in the playoffs, getting them, I think, a couple of last-second clutch shots to win them in certain games. I think it was one of the early 60 championships. He pulled off a couple of good plays. So, in my opinion, he's closer to 5 than he is 10.
No. So what's the top 10? Or I guess the top 5 or 7 shooting guards for you?
So I would go, of course, Jordan, Kobe, Wade, and then it gets kind of fun because it can be anybody from Clyde to AI to, I hate to say his name, but James Harden,
What the hell, though? James
but that would be 6 right there. So when you say that he's closer to 5 than 10, you just named 6 players already.
Me personally, I would put him probably. I would go Kobe or Jordan, Kobe, Wade, Drexler, and then I would probably do Sam. To be honest,
Damn,
Sam Jones.
He rings though. I can't deny it.
Over Harden and AI.
Yeah, I would. He's a champion. He's a champion, and he's a reason why they got so many championships early on. AI don't got no rings, and Ray only got a ring later into his season, teaming up with somebody.
What era did he play in, by the way?
I think he played in the second weakest era, but
you got Sam Jones over Ray Allen.
He's responsible.
He said he got him over Ray Allen, over Allen Iverson, over Harden, bro.
Could Sam Jones do a crossover?
Yeah, he could actually. What?
Oh, damn.
A lot of the shooting guard techniques that are even used today.
I'm sorry,
were started because of Sam Jones.
I know we just had a nigga who was glazing James like 10 minutes ago on here, but like the James Harden disrespect is a little bit outrageous. I'm not going.
Sam Jones. How is it disrespect?
How?
You think Sam Jones is a better basketball player than James Harden?
I'm saying he had a more impact on winning than James Harden.
All right, you got it, bro.
For me, I can hear him as like 9 or 10. I think some of those other players are just more beneficial to what their teams are able to conclude. Because even as much as offensive weapon that Sam Jones was, it still wasn't enough to like put him over the top of a lot of other things. So
like
Harden? I hate to say this, but isn't that kind of hypocritical when you say impact is the most important thing?
Yeah, but they're winning because of defense.
Correct. They were winning because of Bill's defense.
Yeah.
But if they had to have somebody scoring buckets, and it wasn't Bill.
We're talking
fair, but even when Sam Jones wasn't scoring as much as he was later on in his career, they were still winning. So like Sam Jones has years where he's averaging like 8-10 points and they're still
correct.
Winning. So like the impact was very.
He's a better shooting guard than James.
He was coming. There's years where he's coming off the bench, averaging 8 or 10 points, and they're still winning.
This is
true. I hear that, but still, somebody had to get those passes from Kuzi to make those buckets, and 9 times out of 10, it was Sam, especially in the clutch.
But 8 to 10 points, I don't know.
That's a very valid point.
That's nasty as fuck, bro.
I give another thing I love to give Sam Jones a lot of credit for was his shift at the tail end of the 60s when Kuzi had retired and they were in route of looking for a point guard to handle the offense, and he stepped up and he took on that challenge. And so those are things I applaud him for. But that team is like very clearly a defensive oriented team.
Yeah,
there are years where they're below league average offensively. Matter of fact, there's a year where they're the worst offensive team in the NBA. So as much as offense that he was providing, and it was still necessary because there really weren't that many offensive weapons.
Correct. Other than I would say other than Hondo, that's it. That was 8 buckets.
Yeah. So outside of that, then it really wasn't that many offensive weapons on the roster. So to be fair, but I just feel like the team was solely off of defense for a lot of those years, and even whatever he provided, in years where he's coming off the bench, and this is Sam Jones now. Sam Jones coming off the bench, giving you 8 to 10 points. They're still winning ball games. I mean, it wasn't like they were predicated off of his scoring.
He was playing point guard too.
At the end of his career, once Bob Cousy get retired, I think in their last ring, I think he was playing point guard, and the year before that, I think 68 and then 69 he was playing point guard.
How much did Sissy average?
Probably like 5. Like, but they weren't really.
Yeah, it wasn't that many.
No. Please check that, bro. Check that, please, bro.
I'm just saying. I'm saying it's not. It wasn't much. It wasn't like that's how they ran their offense through.
No, they still were all about their defense back then.
Yeah, they were still a defensive oriented team.
Hold on.
Yeah, he averaged 5 assists in 68 and 4 assists in 69. He averaged 5 assists in 67 and 5 assists. I'm looking at rebounds. I'm bugging.
Sam Jones?
No. three rebounds, 3 assists, 3. He averaged about 3 assists.
What?
Oh, that's less than Bradley.
Wait, Sam Jones, you have
this is the nigga better than James
Jones over James Harden.
Yes, he won.
Yo, ring culture is disgusting.
Bro, he already said it already. He won, man. We gotta keep because I gotta. It's about to rain in my car. I left my car outside. I need to bring it in. All right, Emmanuel.
Peak Russell Westbrook or peak Jason Kidd?
Who would I rather have? Y'all are thinking me nasty.
That's a preference question, nigga. Nah, nigga, you answer the question as he asked it.
Who's a better player?
Who's better peak? Answer that man's question.
Who's a better
So
peak?
1 year.
Who's that better peak?
70 Westbrook.
Oh, that's ugly.
Hey, let's go.
Who would I rather have? Jason Kidd. Wait, just real quick. Somebody said Zion. I guess that's, I don't know if you spelling with a Y. Serious answer only. Who wins 2009 or 2020 Lakers?
2020.
Does AD get the boost? In the
Yeah,
ball?
it'd be 2020.
I think 2020.
And then also, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Nothing to do with this. Y'all playing Among Us tonight and low. Are you gonna pop back up? No, I'm not. If that was your question, Emmanuel, yeah, I think Westbrook peaked higher than Jason Kidd.
I was leaning towards those two. So.
Where do you have Manu Ginobili as a shooting guard all the time? What? Why are you squinting?
Answer the question, Lo.
Let's be honest. Let's be for real, bro.
What? I don't.
He didn't piece together enough years for me to put him in these conversations.
Manu?
Healthy years? At healthy years at a high level? No, he did not.
Yeah, respect Manu, man.
Yeah, like
him or Clay.
I realize Manu gets hella disrespected.
I rather have Manu than Clay. What the hell?
Hey, Manu Ginobili blocked it.
Yes, I take myself over Clay. Like,
all right, Keem, what's up, bro?
Nah, I don't got nothing. I honestly only joined because that James Harden nigga. That shit was too funny.
Oh my goodness.
You gotta said I'll spin your mouth.
So basically, you came on the panel just to show off your bonnet. That was basically what it was.
Yeah, that's really what he
Wait,
did.
what?
You came on the panel to show off your bonnet.
The fuck? What? Who cares about the bonnet?
Yo, remember who started this?
That is an ill bonnet, though.
Remember who started this? I'm just saying.
Hilarious. Hey, Lo, I do have one more question.
Nah, you missed it. They both had a bonnet on.
Look what I started, man.
What's the last question?
I'm confused.
Do you think Elgin Baylor could translate in today's basketball?
As is, or you gave him time?
Give him time.
Yeah, he can translate. As is, I don't think there's a.
Who cares?
Fuck no, he did the coke.
Oh my gosh. As is, no.
That is true. Do you give him coke tax or no? That's like
He
he allowed to use it.
He didn't do coke. Damn, y'all disrespectful.
He literally could because he was serving. There's no way.
No, he was serving.
Yeah, he literally was
You don't know
in the war, was drafted in the war, came back, and still was putting up numbers. It's crazy.
You must not know about them stories.
He couldn't sneak it in his glove. Like,
They did coke in the army, bro.
No, he literally could not do it.
Nice sneaking in the glove, like the glove during combat. Like, come on.
Trust me, bro. They did coke in the army, bro.
All right, I'm. If you get kicked, I'm not. What you call it? This is my last.
I'm dead.
Last link I just put out. The link is out if you want to join.
All right, let's keep it a band,
I'll leave Keem in here.
I need this. Since we're on low nose, I need to ask you this officially because I've asked you this before. I talked about
that nigga came up here and he said KB a hoe. Go ahead.
Who said that? Who said that?
No, this is someone who popped in. His name was KB a hoe. Go ahead.
You just hate on me for no reason, man. Listen, bro, your boy Giannis, bro. We need to talk about him for a little bit. You said this is the last segment, right?
No, I mean these are the last set of people that I'm bringing up. There's only one person showed up. So,
but yeah, bro, your boy. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
This was his last year of an excuse for me. Like, I told Mars this. I think I told you this already, but like unofficially kind of thing. What
excuse?
Of his offensive game? Are we serious?
I mean, well, Coach Bud isn't there anymore, so he's
exactly. So that was the tax, the Coach Bud tax of him not being maximized as a player. And I'm just like, okay, cool.
I'm gonna be honest. Giannis is not gonna win another ring. He is not. Like his team is old as hell. Them niggas, like, I don't know who they gonna get after them. Like, everyone else.
Low. So I don't know where you have Giannis ranked. You have him like what, second in the world, third, top three somewhere.
Right? Top three.
Okay, so I'm gonna just say you have him second because I know you don't have Curry second. So
why can't I?
You don't. I just know you don't. But listen, after this season, if he ends up putting another one of those runs in where it's like an okay season, or okay for a top 3 player, which is still good, goes into the postseason, plays a competent defense, and drops again with the same issue.
Don't say okay. Don't say okay.
What competent defense outside of Miami? What defense do you think he's going to drop against? Like significantly?
He dropped against Boston in 22.
Wow, you doing that? You
But he
doing
still
that?
dropped.
No,
He dropped.
KB.
You're right. You're right. Wait, you had an okay season?
So if Curry does the same thing as well, what am I going to say?
No, I say he dropped.
No, if Curry drops again, what are we going to say?
He dropped, but has Curry had multiple times where he's dropped consistently?
Yeah, I mean, no, because he's been playing with KD and Clay.
Clay? No way you're using Clay as a cut. No way.
Wait, why not?
That's disgusting.
Why
That's
not, bro?
genuinely
Stop!
nasty.
Don't do that,
That's
bro.
nasty.
Don't do that.
That's
Clay
nasty.
Thompson.
I'm just saying,
one of the
if he
best
goes
shooters
into
ever
another
play
year
the
doing this
game,
again,
man.
against the
The
same
respect that y'all get to Clay is so.
He's one of the best
It's
shooters that ever
weird.
played the game, bro.
I don't disrespect Clay. I think he's an elite shooter, but y'all
He's
act like
overrated.
him as a secondary is
Clay
something.
is overrated. I'm like,
Clay is
But
overrated.
no one's saying he's not. No one's saying he's a secondary.
You know, Steph has
You gotta
not had
guard
other than
Klay
KD.
Thompson, bro.
No, other than KD.
You gotta
Now
guard Clay, bro. Stop.
You don't gotta
Yo,
guard
what
Eric
secondary
Bledsoe,
shot creator
nigga.
has Steph had other than KD?
You don't have to
This-
guard Drew Holiday, bro.
Nigga shoot 40% of playoffs. Say something.
So KP, are you also taking account? Are you taking account the fact that it made it easier for Boston to beat the Bucks when the Bucks are shooting less?
I think yes, when they're not shooting well, it's fine. Like obviously, there's other things that like shooting variance, Middleton not being there is true. But like I'm talking about tendencies as a player and production. About you just going up against like a good defense. Obviously, context matters, but he struggles. Like even against the Raptors, he struggled.
He struggled against the Clippers. He struggled against the Celtics.
The Raptors 4 years
He
ago.
He struggled against the Raptors in the 19 Eastern Conference. That was the beginning of
4 years ago.
So he still struggled.
He had Eric Bledsoe.
I want to be clear.
Who cares?
Struggling. I want to be clear. Struggling and dropping against, like at that time, one of the best playoff defenses. Like that doesn't mean that you're horrible.
Hello, if you had
like Curry just struggled against the Lakers. Like, does that mean he's bad offensively now?
No, I don't think Giannis is bad offensively. I'm saying this from the tendencies that which we've seen from him in the postseason, like in terms of his own negatives, it hasn't improved. And even like when you said Chris Middleton wasn't there,
in all seriousness, yes, I understand what you're saying.
The bud tax, like his outside the restricted area game is still very bad.
Yes.
This season alone, his defense actually took a little bit of a drop. I don't think it was that impressive.
He was hurt. He was injured.
He was injured, but still, it wasn't like when he was healthy.
When Curry struggles, we give him a pass.
He just had an okay season. Yeah,
I gave Giannis pass for years. I'm saying this is my last straw. This is my last dance.
I agree with
last
you.
straw with what?
He does need to get better as a post scorer. He does need to get better as a post scorer.
But what's his last straw?
I'm saying if you see this,
giving Giannis excuses for him struggling as an offensive player.
He struggles because he can't shoot. What I'm saying, what
not that much expectation for him.
Is he gonna drop down in the rankings? He's still gonna be top 3 in the world,
He just
bro.
drops because of the defense is on
KB,
focusing on him in the playoffs, bro.
KB, throughout NBA history, it's just a fact that no matter how great you are for offensive score, there's always a team within your era that has a style of defense that's going to limit your production, make you like Jordan with the Pistons, Jordan with the Knicks at times, Jordan with the
Miami.
Kobe with the Kobe with Pistons and Miami too. Like and so on and so on, right? How much you take out the matchups because those teams you're describing, the only teams that got Giannis out the playoffs were elite teams. Every other team got crucified. They got demolished.
Curry with Dellavedova.
Were the Heat elite defensively?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I said this year.
I have a question. I
thought you were talking about the
when did Giannis's prime start?
To me, 2018. That's my opinion.
18, 19?
To me, 2018. Some people say 2017, but I say 2018.
We're saying 2017, 18, KB. That's his prime.
2017,
that's when the prime started to me. 2018.
Yep. Yeah, the championship.
Miami was a top 10 defense last year in the regular season. The postseason, I think they elevated a little bit.
Yeah, they always was an elite paint protection team.
Yeah. So KP, you basically don't like Giannis' playing
Miami's
style,
defense,
KP.
I understand he struggles with, but like it's the for me, it's not about like it's a difference if you struggle and you have like the counter for it. He doesn't have the
It
counter
doesn't
for
matter.
So are you done giving KD excuses?
Yeah.
I never, when did I give KD an excuse?
I'm just
nigga, you know me. I've never gave
Wait.
Are
So
you done
it's
giving
worse-
Tatum and Brown excuses?
Wait.
You know, I'm a Tatum hater.
I got a question. It's worse.
What are you saying, bro?
It's worse if you struggle with the package than if you struggle without it. So if you can't shoot and you struggle, it's worse than struggling with being able to shoot. That's backwards to me.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because that means he really ain't got the package like that. Pause. He don't really have a counter.
Yeah, he don't got a counter, so he's going to struggle regardless.
Yeah,
but this dude has a
Right.
counter. Why is he
if you
struggling?
got the quote
You got the counter. Why are you
skill,
struggling?
and they struggle too.
Yeah, if you got the counters, and
Why are you struggling with the counter? You got the answer.
I mean, it sounds like you really ain't got the counters, bro.
This is my problem though, because
you taking it for granted.
Yeah, at some point you're gonna see like,
see what I did there?
okay,
You see
so
what I
you're
did
just
there?
banking on
Granted
you
counter.
not seeing a team that's gonna be able to like, because teams in the East are gonna be like, okay, you're gonna have to go through the Bucks, you're gonna have to go through maybe the Celtics or whatever. So defensively, we have to have some sort of scheme to be able to like counter what they do, and Miami's one of the teams obviously that is good defensively, especially against the Celtics, be with their zone and like their crafty POA defenders, and how like they use Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's weak handle to actually like deter their offense and whatnot, right? And then Giannis is like there's just the wall off, like where Bam, his versatility, Jimmy Butler as well. And it's just like you're gonna have to go through these teams, in my opinion, or the Miami team at some point.
They're
right?
the only team that won
So-
a
so-
chip.
so
They're the
KD
only team that won a chip.
Okay, so the 1 year he
They're
doesn't
the
go
only
through
team
them,
they won a
and what?
chip.
So
No, he does
18,
go
19,
through
he doesn't.
They're the only team that won a chip.
Listen to the consistency I'm getting from you guys. In 18-19, he plays the Raptors a good defense, and he had Eric Bledsoe on the team that had a spacing issue. Cool. Goes up against 20. He goes in 20. He plays Miami, struggles.
He got hurt.
He got
hurt.
He got hurt towards the end too, but even during the series, he had a
21, he went to Miami. Beat
He
them.
went through
did
Miami.
struggle.
21.
Jimmy
Yes,
Butler
21
was hurt.
Miami, he played well. True.
He struggled, but he beat them.
That
And then
21 run to me is a bit.
And in 22, Chris Middleton's hurt,
Mhm.
but albeit you can definitely say, especially Game 7.
Yeah, he
struggled
showed
against- He definitely struggled against.
No,
them.
he couldn't post up like he couldn't get downhill against Grant Williams.
So KD, my thing is
I'm sorry. Do you not think that their front court got worse on Boston?
Who?
Boston.
Yeah, but with the loss of Grant Williams, I definitely think they got worse because
Yeah,
like
Al
he was
Horford's older
I
now.
think Al Horford getting older and Grant Williams is like
They got Tingus
low
Pingus.
key,
I think they
Grant
good.
Williams post defense actually moves me. I'm not gonna lie to you. So he's but then again, bro, the Miami's still there. Like if the same team you ran up against this team, how many times?
I agree. Let me be clear. I want to be clear. He needs to prepare himself to beat Miami, or just in a general sense, because like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be an aspect of it's just one team. I don't really gotta prepare for this.
And
Like,
let me say this real quick. Eagle Nation, he did ask this question. Lo, what is your top 5 offensive players all time in order? Jordan and LeBron are kind of interchangeable to me. I'm sorry, not Jordan, LeBron. Magic. Jesus Christ, Magic. No. I'll just say it. Jordan, LeBron, Magic, Curry, Jokic. Those are the 5.
Jokic, number
It's
5.
Jordan, LeBron, Curry, Jokic, Magic. Let's be real.
No, but KP,
Be
KP,
real,
KP,
man.
KP, I
Be real.
understand.
I'm joking.
Like one of the underrated aspects of Giannis did improve offensively is his playmaking. Like that's just a fact. Even in the last series when he was injured and all that stuff, you saw the improvements in his playmaking, especially from pick and rolls, finding lobs, even from this interior passing. That is a counter to a team that plays zone like the Miami Heat. So I understand what you say.
It's not really a counter if like
Hold on, improving your
in a half court setting to me.
Zone.
To me personally, in a half court setting, Giannis's playmaking is only attributed when he's either going downhill, which half of the time is he struggles to do in a half court playoff setting, which is a fact to me.
We agree to disagree.
Or in the post, but when you have a proper post defender against him, he tends to struggle as well too. The decision making is fine, the advantage creation is there, but then when the shots aren't falling, when the advantage creation is there, you need a counter for it. And if you don't have said counter, you're going to struggle.
We gotta go. Ray.
Yeah.
What's your question? What you had to say?
Yeah, my question that I definitely have for KB was like if players like Giannis, like if you saw them during the during the post game wearing a bonnet, where he changed his opinion about Giannis.
Wait, I just gotta you wait, you do know Giannis gets doubled a lot though, right? And he has like the most help defense in the league guarding him, right? It's
I
not
never
one-on-one.
doubted Giannis as a
but-
playmaker. I don't
But
think
he didn't in Miami, and again that Miami series, he wasn't getting doubled that often. Bam was getting away with a lot of one-on-one coverages, and he was still struggling to score on Bam. Which I understand. I understand what everybody is saying, but we can't be in denial about who Giannis is as a half-court player. Like if he just had a post game, like just being able to defend not Boston, Milwaukee would be completely different if he just had some type of way to generate a quality shot consistently.
I don't know. Here's where I get your point, KB. Where you say where you want to take looking at him differently this year. I agree with you because if he does look the same without Bud and he has the same deficiencies, then I will definitely put it more on him. See, for me, I don't put it a lot on him. I actually give coaching a credit. So if we having a problem with Bud and we give him a Bud tax, let's really talk about the Bud tax. So now that's why I agree with you on that. If he shows you the same deficiencies, I'm with you.
For sure is real. I'm not like denying that at all. I seen in multiple series where like he's misusing Giannis in certain like schemes.
100%.
And I think it's a fact for sure.
He shouldn't be rim running or running through pick and rolls as he does.
He doesn't respect the ring. That's
his
all it
deficiency. This is my opinion though. His deficiency and Coach Bud's lack of awareness when it comes to Giannis's game goes like hand in hand to me.
You don't
so
respect
like
the ring,
when I see Bud leave and Coach Griffin comes in this season and I see improvements, I'll be like, wow, okay, it really was Coach Bud holding him back from truly being
why don't you respect the ring, man? You don't respect the ring, man?
If I see you outside of 4 feet shooting sub 32%, my nigga, are we serious? Like,
do you not respect the ring, man?
I gotta draw the line. Like, I don't know.
He is 7 foot, man. You not respect the ring.
That's maybe not his game, and Bud made him do that. But if he changes his game where he's more on the interior, he could still just shoot the 35%.
If he play like KD and Laws, would it be better?
Shot he's taking, basically.
If he play like KD and Laws, would it be better?
He don't have to play like KD.
So what do you got? So he's one. What do you want to do?
What I'm saying.
A post game. Just a post game. That's it.
Oh, you want to? But do you not respect the ring he won?
He doesn't. No, but he still needs a post game. Winning a ring does not mean that you should stop developing.
No, I know that. I'm just saying. I know he doesn't respect the ring. I know you don't respect it. I just wanted to say it.
Eagle Nation.
Because the more years I watch him, struggle. I'm like, damn, like really, injury luck was really the reason why this nigga won. Like I don't know.
Injury luck. Wow.
Eagle Nation says how much better is Jokic compared to Kobe now, and where does he rank offensively for you in all-time greats? Kobe's a top 10 offensive player. I just think it's really, really hard to reach like transcendent levels as an offensive weapon, in large part to do with the fact that I think you need to be both proficient as a scorer and also as a playmaker, as a passer and playmaker. As a passer, I don't think Kobe reaches the levels that other players ahead of him does. So
respect 09 Kobe, man. You need to talk about it.
Kobe, even at Kobe's best, he's nowhere near close as a passer as Bird, Magic, Jordan.
He's better than Bird passing.
LeBron.
He could have averaged.
He's not better than Bird.
That's
passing.
what he told you. He could have averaged.
Well, think about it this way: Bird was passing to a guy who had like a 76 true shooting percentage in a playoff series. I'm just saying, if Kobe had that as a teammate, passes might look better.
Bird passing, bro.
Before Mikal was there, Bird was a better passer.
Was he?
Let's keep it a being.
Nope.
All right. And I want to be clear. Kobe's a great passer. I said he's a top 10. I don't know. I feel like niggas gonna be in the chat like, oh my god. Yeah, he's a top 10 offensive player all time. But he's just like to reach the levels of like top 5 to top 7 status. You have to also be like extremely great at something else as well offensively. And I just don't think that
I can see an argument where they heavily rely on like scoring and resiliency.
Like I see when you say that, but
what was Magic?
If you bring up the reason why he's like better than
besides passing or offense,
passing and playmaking as a post scorer, there was more than enough for him.
Wait, was he extremely great as a post scorer?
Yes.
No, he was not. No, not Magic
was great as a post scorer.
Not extremely great.
Magic
extremely
Johnson?
Great.
He was great as a.
Was he extremely great though?
He was great enough as a post.
That was mostly what like his outside of transition game in the half court. He was like legitimately calling out like getting mismatches in the post. So
getting mismatches. If he had someone his size guarding, he would be.
Nigga, that's the whole. But you can't say if he has someone his size. Like,
Actually,
post
I don't.
game
I
is
still
that
don't. I
crazy.
still. I mean,
I
a
don't think
quarter.
that's
A
true
quarter.
even to the
I'm about to
case
say.
either.
I'm about to say. I still don't. I think for most 6'8", 6'9" players, Magic was still competent enough to score on them as well in the post.
I don't think he's
Yeah,
not a
underrated footwork in my opinion. I'm not gonna
for his
lie.
size. He's not a top 10 post player. Hell no.
That's not why he's a top 10 on
No. Let's stop.
No, but I got Kobe
As
over
a
Magic.
as a 6'9" player, like let's say 6'9" and under. 6'9", yeah, 6'9" and under.
Kobe has a better post game than Magic
Okay,
Johnson.
Kobe. Who else? 6'9" and under.
Kawhi Leonard. Michael Jordan. 6'9" and under. I can't use KD, right?
Yeah, because that's not 6'9" and under.
Yeah, Klay Thompson.
No.
So for his height, he had a great post game.
Does Dwayne Wade have a better post game?
Even if you want to say Wade, it's not enough.
But like, why
How
we
many
gotta
do you have
use
to name? 10?
Even if you want to say Melo, it's still not enough.
But why are we using his height? I just think Kobe has
You-
one of the best
that's what
post
you
games.
said.
I'm
You
saying
said that.
He does. Kobe has a better post game all time than Magic Johnson. There's mad people like, what are you talking about? Kobe has one of the best post games all time.
Bro, you said for his height. That's what you
All right,
said.
all
Was
right.
going off
Let me-
of what you said.
Let me run it back. Kobe Bryant has a top 5 post game.
No, he does not.
Yes, he does.
Mm.
Crazy. Are you watch? He's the best footwork all time.
Okay, we gotta go. He does not have a
Kobe
top
Bryant has
five.
the best footwork all time.
He has a top 5. Who has a better post game, him or Shaq? No way.
Kobe has a better post game than Shaq.
No way, this quiet.
Kobe has
You
a better
think
post game than
Kobe's a
Shaq.
better post player than Shaq?
Yes.
Hakeem
Hakeem has a better post game than Kobe.
Who?
Hakeem has a better post game than Kobe.
Oh,
Yes, he
okay,
does.
okay.
Charles
Shaq doesn't
Barkley.
have a
got a
I mean,
better-
does he?
Well, let's say so. You would rather give the ball to Kobe in the post than Shaq in the post.
Yes.
Oh my.
That's insane.
No, but when it
No
comes to post
way!
game, because that's a different question. I'd rather get a ball to Shaq in the post. But who has a
Who's
better
the
post
better
game?
post scorer?
But the reason why is because of size, skill. Kobe has more skilled post game than Shaq. We know this. Stop acting like he does not.
Who's top 5 scorer all time?
Top 5 scorer all time? Michael
Yeah.
Jordan,
Okay.
Kobe, Bron.
This nigga's way more skilled than Braun. Get out of here. I'm done.
Wait.
I'm done. I can't. You've already cooked yourself.
I
You
don't
just
think-
sat there and said
who's more skilled than
skill.
Bron? Wait, yeah.
Kevin Durant is more skilled than Braun, and you have Braun over KD as a scorer.
Wait, LeBron finishes way better than
Shaq finishes way better than Kobe in the post.
No, he finishes better. We're not talking about post. We're talking about finishing. And Bron
But
has
the
a
point I'm
and Bron
making
has
is
a-
that
and
as
Bron
when it
has
came
a-
to post scoring,
and Bron
you
has
didn't
a better
care
post- and
how
Bron has
much
a better post game than KD. He does.
as a what?
He has a better post game than KD.
Who?
Bron. He has a better post game.
Yo,
than
wrap
KD.
this shit up. Wrap this shit up.
I gotta
Wrap
wrap
this
this
shit
up.
up. Wrap this
I
shit
gotta
up.
wrap
Wrap
this
this
up.
shit
I
up.
gotta wrap this up.
Wrap this shit up. Wrap this shit up. Wrap this shit up.
Yo, man, thank y'all for coming out, bro. I don't know that. Jesus Christ, that was crazy. Golly.
Yo, this nigga.
Yo, Jesus. All right, I'll catch y'all later.
LeBron has a better post game. I think so.
No,
he
he
passes
does
better. He
not.
passes better from the post. He
Oh,
won
he's
a
a better
game.
passer
He won
out
a
of the
game
post.
just fading away. He won a game just post fading the whole game.
What does that
He has
mean?
never done that.
I hate that.
Oh
I hate
my
that.
God.
I hate
No,
when niggas
that
say,
shows you
he went
can
off a
do
post
it.
fade.
That
No, he's
shows
the
you
better
can do
player.
it.
No,
But his
nigga,
game
I'm
is
not
way more
doing that,
versatile
bro.
than KD.